Tyler gave the rules that he and I decided.
Gentlemen, welcome to Fight Club. The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
All right, Benjy, let's talk about Fight Club.
Let's do it. Let's break the rules.
All right.
Anarchy.
Ah, nice. Yeah. Break the established order.
Rules are made to be broken.
Yeah, we'll get into that. So Fight Club, very well-known movie. Anyone who's watching this has probably heard of it. It was one of those movies that a long time it seemed like a movie that a lot of people said you should watch. I only watched it. I was after high school, so I must have been 19 years old. And since then, I think I've watched it 3 times. I think the time that I watched it in preparation for this episode was my 3rd time. So yeah, when did you first watch it?
Well, I think a lot of people, I first watched it as a kid, and I think a lot of people liked it a lot because of the ending. I think it was like, the mind twist of it.
Yeah.
The mind bender aspect. So without really understanding what it meant from more of a cultural perspective, a cultural commentary. I first watched it in high school, and then maybe, another time a few years later, I'd come back to it every so often, and I'd be like, what, you haven't watched Fight Club? We got to watch it, Then we'd watch it again. Yeah.
In general, by the way, I do think that people, particularly younger people, overrate twists in movies. Like if a movie has a spectacular twist, and spectacular is judged by simply the fact that it threw you for a loop, it really subverted your expectations. So suddenly it's a movie everybody has to watch. I really don't feel that way in general. I think that twists can be rather overrated.
Yeah, I mean, it's more novel when you're younger. When you're older, you're like, I've seen this one. He's totally his father, that's going to be how it ends. By the way, spoiler warning. Everyone.
Yeah. I mean, we've already spoiled that there is a twist. We just haven't spoiled what it is. But yes.
If you haven't watched it yet, you know what to do. Just keep listening.
Yeah, because we want your views anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what is it about, or what are our reviews?
Let's start with did you enjoy it, or to what is it good? I mean, I think everyone agrees it's at least good in the sense that you couldn't call it a stupid movie, or you couldn't call it trash. And even people for whom it's not their cup of tea would say okay, there's something going on there. There's it's a well crafted. There's thought that goes into it. It says something. It's not just nonsense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, by the way, there is a book which we also read the book before, 150 pages about. Not a long book, but basically very similar to the movie. The movie stays very true to it. Just a bit of aspects that the book has that the movie doesn't, and maybe vice versa. But, most of it is the same. There are some key fundamental differences. The story as a whole, so both movie and book, I think, like you said, they're not they're deep. So there's a message behind it. It's not some shallow story. It's well produced, the movie. Good actors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting cast, because I would say, choosing, Brad Pitt and
Edward Norton
as your main characters, and trying to show that, beauty doesn't matter. Maybe I'm jumping the gun here a bit, but sometimes it's a little they still look too good for beating each other up every day,
Okay, so you're saying Edward Norton and Brad Pitt are too good looking for these roles?
In a way. I mean, you still want them to be good looking because you want to watch, and you want people to watch. But, they don't look like absolute crap after getting beaten up to a pulp. So,
okay, yeah.
Whereas in the book, you could still, imagine that they look a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
They're much more average, much more relatable.
I see. When the Edward Norton character in the book is sitting in his office and it describes him as, bleeding out of his mouth and having a black eye, you can imagine a very average looking guy looking very beaten up and very ugly looking.
Yeah. I mean, I think the movie did a good job of like showing, okay, he still can get into work. He's not that like beaten up. And yet like when he smiles, he's like slurping on his own blood. I think it did a good job of that.
In the movie.
In the movie.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I do think when I was watching the movie, I did think that it's a dark movie and it's kind of heavy material, but in a way it's not heavy enough because you have a bunch of guys just beating the crap out of each other and everyone seems to be pretty okay afterwards. Like no one has died yet, although, I mean, actually, no, that's true. Just in Fight Club, just through the course of the fighting, doesn't seem that anybody dies.
There is that one fight when Edward Norton beats the crap out of who's the guy that plays Joker?
Oh, Jared Leto.
Jared Leto. Yeah.
I didn't know that was him.
I'm pretty sure that's him.
That's toward the end already, and I don't think he dies.
He doesn't die, but he comes close. So, in terms of believability, which is a big thing for me when rating and reviewing movies, I think it was pretty believable, pretty relatable. I think there were some scenes where you're like, how does someone, he talks about losing his teeth over and over, getting beat, his head is like smashed into the cement, and yet he still like continues to function, and nothing happens, to most of the people in the Fight Club. They still go on, and that's a little unbelievable, maybe.
Not just that they go on, but that they
thrive.
They thrive, or that they just seem socially normal. Like
Yeah.
they continue to just seem like normal people.
Yeah, but it does a good job of balancing pushback from the boss, let's say, that wants to fire him because he looks unpresentable. He's threatened, but he threatens the boss and his boss in revenge, or to get him to get off his back. But maybe we should start with a bit of a synopsis.
Okay.
A bit of a review.
Yeah, get more structured. All right, so we're just going to go over quickly a little synopsis of Fight Club. Hopefully it'll be somewhat small. Okay, basically, an overview of Fight Club, and we're assuming you've seen the movie when we go over this. So anyway, there's a protagonist. He doesn't have a name. He's just the protagonist. I might call him Edward Norton at some point. So the protagonist is depressed. It's not explicitly said, but it certainly seems he's depressed, and he has insomnia. And he's attending these support groups, like cancer support groups or brain disease support groups, support groups for various diseases, because he finds that when he goes there, he is able to, it's cathartic for him. He's able to kind of emotionally let go. He's able to cry. In particular, he meets this guy named Bob at, I think this is testicular cancer. Yeah, he meets Bob at testicular cancer, and Bob has big man boobs because he takes testosterone supplements, and so whatever, his estrogen spikes up, and so he, yeah. So then he cries when he talks to Bob, and Bob lets out his emotions, he lets out his emotions, and he cries, and then when he cries, he's able to sleep. And man, I'm already like explaining way too much detail. It's gonna
that's
take
why I
me
was
forever.
laughing, not because of the man tits, but because you were going so
I'm literally
deep
like
into
going
every detail.
All right, so like maybe we should stop and discuss after each piece, or fine, I'll try to blow through. Should I blow through?
Blow through it.
Blow through it. Okay. So basically, guy, insomnia. He meets this woman named Marla Singer, which all right, I'm not going to add commentary. I'm just going to blow through. And then he meets this guy named Tyler Durden. Tyler Durden, he sells soap, and he also works as a movie projectionist, and he's also a waiter. Whatever. He's this cool guy named Tyler. And then his apartment blows up, and he befriends Tyler, and then they start Fight Club together, which is basically a bunch of guys meeting up to fight each other. And Fight Club grows very big. A lot of members join it, and then it expands to a lot of different locations. And then it morphs into this other thing called Project Mayhem, which is about going out and actually creating change in society, not just like meeting up and fighting, but actually like going out and doing things. Could be like actually sabotaging companies or destroying pieces of art or doing graffiti. Or there's one amusing scene where they have to go out and pick a fight with a stranger and let that stranger win. So that's what Project Mayhem's about. And then Project Mayhem morphs into this like full-fledged organization, like terrorist organization bent on destroying society and producing an anarchist utopia of some sort. At least that's the vision of Tyler. Tyler is at the head of all this. But then, spoiler warning, the main character, who still has no name, he discovers that he himself is Tyler. Tyler is he.
Wait, what?
The two of them are the same person. And so it actually has been him the whole time who has been heading this terrorist organization and who has been like recruiting all these people, and all these people look up to him, and he's been
Building all of these fight clubs across
yeah,
the U.S.
and he's been
giving them all missions.
Exactly. And he's been preaching this ideology of, don't, society is bad. You have to unlock your potential and your power and, take control, and we have to get rid of all this consumerism stuff. And
modern society specifically, and
Yeah.
like in America, Western centralized.
Okay, very well.
Because I imagine, it's not as popular in the East, let's say, the movie. It might not be as relatable.
Probably not.
Definitely more censored. There's a censored version that
Oh, yeah?
was aired in China. The ending was different or something. I should look up
Interesting.
what exactly was different. Maybe they didn't let them blow up
The building?
the building.
Yeah. That's at the that's like the very last few seconds of the movie. That the ending scene is where there was this big heist that Project Mayhem planned, that Tyler planned, where he was going to blow up these major financial buildings in some major business sector.
Is that a heist or just a bombing?
A heist is a...
Like specifically stealing something?
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was just like a crime operation. But fine, you could be right. So anyway, Tyler and Project Mayhem, they planted explosives in this building, and so the protagonist, who of course is Tyler, even though I'm referring to them as two different characters, it's important to remember they are the same person.
I was right. Heist is a robbery.
Okay, well done, Benjy. So the protagonist tries to stop the buildings from being demolished, which he fails to do, but he does succeed in kind of defeating the Tyler persona in him by the end of the movie, and he does this by shooting himself through the mouth, and we'll discuss why that worked or whether that worked.
And also whether Tyler didn't even need to exist after that. Maybe Tyler was going to go away anyways because he accomplished what he set out to do.
Okay, that's interesting, because I didn't think he accomplished what he set out to do. Meaning this was one big bombing, but he seemed to want to take down all of society.
Mm-hmm. Maybe, yeah. Or just to reset, I don't know, the major credit card companies I don't know. Maybe that wasn't sufficient to get rid of everyone's debt. Maybe there needed to be more done.
I got the sense that there was more.
Probably.
That if Tyler,
there's this general sense that it just kept getting more extreme and more extreme. It wasn't going to necessarily stop anytime soon.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But it's also a little weird that he could shoot himself. He could get rid of Tyler just by shooting himself through the cheek.
Yeah, every time I've watched this movie with other people, that's always been a point of discussion. Like, what? You can just get rid of this kind of,
split personality.
Like, this person's insane, right? He is imagining that he is this other person, and so he shoots himself through the cheek, and that just cures him.
Right. And I'm pretty sure he shot himself through the cheek. It's not like he shot himself through the head and just survived.
No,
it says in the book.
Yeah, it's through the cheek. Yeah.
Yeah. So he must have been telling himself that was sufficient. Also, the book ends there. Maybe Tyler comes back.
Well, that would be depressing a little, because then there's truly no resolution of any sort. But yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe. But I guess you get the sense that, by the end he's gotten back together with Marla.
Mm-hmm.
He's I think he's happy with what he's done and accomplished. I think the Edward Norton character is on board with what Tyler's doing for a long time. Mm-hmm. And, as it gets more extreme, he's still on board with it. And it's only once it gets to that, final thing, blowing up all the buildings, when people die by accident, then he starts to say, this is too far. So maybe from his perspective, he's done with Tyler because he's set out to do what he wanted to do. And he didn't want it to get any further.
He being Edward Norton.
Yeah. Or the narrator, or the protagonist.
Yeah, we might refer to the main character as Edward Norton, even though that's the actor name.
Yeah. Because he did agree with Tyler. He got what he wanted to do done. And Tyler wanted to take it more extreme, sure. But Edward Norton was done. Well,
for a long time, I don't think it was at all clear that Tyler was, going to take it to any extreme place or really hurt people. Definitely as the movie begins, as their friendship begins, I think Edward Norton just thinks Tyler is just a guy who maybe he thinks is cool and has kind of strong opinions, interesting opinions about, you should be okay with your apartment blowing up. Now you're free from your possessions. That sort of inspiring message. I don't think it was clear, even when they were starting Fight Club, that was just, fighting between people, consenting adults. I don't think it was clear to Edward Norton, for a while at least, that they were going to like blow up things, especially.
No, but he was okay with it.
He was okay with what?
He was okay with Fight Club. He enjoyed it.
Yeah,
He
but
was
that's,
okay with-
is that necessarily wrong?
He wanted to, well, I'm saying he agreed with Tyler and what he was trying to do up until a point.
Right, but I think that there was a switch. It wasn't as if there was a kind of just a raise in quantity, a raise in intensity of Tyler's actions. There was a real switch from Fight Club to Project Mayhem. And in the movie, at least, I do agree with you, by the way, that this is done differently in the book versus the movie. But in the movie, at least, the Edward Norton character, I think, is painted as a little more innocent. And when it comes to Project Mayhem, he had no idea that it was starting when it started. And he then confronts Tyler later when they're in the car. And he says, why wasn't I told about Project Mayhem? I thought we started Fight Club together. And it was just Tyler who did Project Mayhem on his own.
So you don't think that Edward Norton was on board with Project Mayhem?
In the movie, he wasn't on board because he wasn't even aware of it, at least when it started.
Well, in the movie, he does go with the rest of them to threaten the police commissioner who's trying to crack down on Fight Club, which is done with all of these Project Mayhem members.
Wait, is that the scene where Tyler says, we are the people who sweep your floors. We are the people who cook your food. Do not F with us.
Yeah, and then
That's pretty
cuts
far.
off his the guy's nuts.
That's
But
pretty
they
far
don't.
along. Wait, what's your point about that scene?
That he was on board, like he was part of Project Mayhem. He was, yelling at the people on the doorstep. He wasn't as aware. He was kind of like half in it, half not, I think, for the Project Mayhem part.
I will accept
And it was only once Bob died that he's like, no, this has gone too far. And it was only once he's like, oh, you guys are building explosives to blow stuff up. I guess on the TV set when he when they watch themselves on the news that they did a big smiley face with fire.
Yeah.
He's also not on board with that.
Yeah, I thought for most of the scenes, if not all the scenes, once Project Mayhem starts, he's kind of portrayed as this passive observer, kind of uncomfortable with it, but not sure how to stop it. And he does voice kind of these concerning questions. And the rest of the Project Mayhem members kind of laugh at him because they think like, oh, Tyler's messing with us.
Mm-hmm.
But he as a character, the main character, he's like, what is going on here? And that seems to be most of the scenes. Also, when you talk about that scene where Tyler and the Project Mayhem guys go after the police commissioner, Edward Norton was not in the room with them.
Yeah, he was.
He was?
Yeah. He locked the door to the bathroom once they got inside. But Tyler Durden, Brad Pitt, does the talking to the police commission.
So here's the thing, though. We have to remember that they're the same person, right?
Yes.
So there are times when it's Tyler who's actually the real person in real life, and the person that is both Tyler and Edward Norton, he's simply imagining, or he simply thinks that he's Edward Norton standing at the side.
Right.
So the reason why Edward Norton was there was simply because Tyler was there. But it was really Tyler who was there. They can't actually both be there.
Well, sometimes he would see himself as as Edward Norton staring from the side, but other times he just wasn't aware or there at all. What would happen is he'd fall asleep, and then Brad Pitt would take over his body.
Yeah.
Fly away, and then he wouldn't remember. But other times, he imagined them both together at the same time.
Yes.
Usually when he was more on board with what he was doing.
That's an interpretation.
Yeah.
That's fair. I didn't really think that to myself during the course of the story.
Or when he wants to confront him. When there's points of conflict.
You think so?
Or when he agrees with him. Yeah. Because like when they first meet, he wants to be him. He wants to hang out with him. He's everything that he wishes he was, as he said.
Okay.
And then by the end, he's like looking for him. He's like, where'd you go? I need to talk to you. This is bad. We got to stop this. And then Tyler would show up and then say, you're not stopping anything. I'm not going to let you. So I think, at least in some of the scenes, I think we could both agree that by Project Mayhem, it was starting to get out of control when he was building an army, and then Edward Norton started to like not be as on board.
Yeah, definitely in the movie. In the book, I would grant it's much more ambiguous.
Mm-hmm. It's also more ambiguous when, I don't know, when reading the book, like when he discovers that he is Tyler Durden.
You think it's ambiguous in the book?
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know. It seems more obvious when reading the book that he's him.
Like there's more foreshadowing.
Yeah. He's always talking about, I know this because Tyler knows this.
That line's in the movie too.
Yeah, it's true. But so, which begs the question, how come no one sees that right from the beginning?
Well, because you don't know what it means. So I will grant you, and also you probably read the book after you watched the movie, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's tough to know exactly. Now when I watch the movie, I see all the clues, and it's like, wow, it's so obvious.
And there are even like flashes of Brad Pitt at the beginning.
Yeah.
Showing up.
There are, yeah. In the same way that Tyler Durden, he splices inappropriate images into family movies in the story. That's part of what he does. So in the same way, the movie splices images of Brad Pitt as Tyler Durden into the beginning of the movie before you've actually met Tyler Durden.
Mm-hmm. Also, at the end of the movie, there is a spliced-in male penis.
A male penis, as opposed to a...
Yes. We'll talk about masculinity and
Yeah.
what it means to be a man.
Okay, wait. I was gonna. Yeah. So with it being obvious, I do think after watching the movie a third time here that actually that is done really well in the movie. Probably the book too. It was tough to experience the book in the same way because I was more just like analyzing the book because I already knew the story. But in the movie, I thought it's done really well that there are so many hints, but somebody watching for the first time, he understands that something's up, but he's not going to like say to himself, oh, obviously like Edward Norton and Brad Pitt, they're the same person. Like you're just, I don't know, you're not going to stop in the middle of the movie and formulate such a hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, like most people don't do that.
Right. Although, like, maybe nowadays we're so used to subverting expectations, and
Yeah.
you've probably heard about, oh, there's a big twist in Fight Club
Right.
from somewhere.
Once you know there is a twist,
Yeah.
it's possible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, what is Tyler's basic worldview,
Right.
and how is it different from the protagonist?
Okay. Yeah. So definitely a discussion question, open to a lot of interpretation. Tyler's basic worldview seems to me to be something like you have all this potential and it's being squandered by the society you live in. You know, these corporations, they advertise to you, they kind of convince you that you want to buy all this stuff that ends up owning you, and that is a line that he says, meaning you own stuff, but the stuff ends up owning you. So the corporations just kind of like make you think you have to buy all this stuff that isn't good for you, and it's tying you down. What you really need is to be free. You need to unleash your power. Did you want to chime in there?
Yeah. So, what does that mean when a corporation, owns you exactly? It's when consumerism runs away, too much to an extent. It's when you've become the product, when you're buying things for the sake of buying that you don't actually need. So, I think that's something a lot of us can relate to. It's, important to reflect on that sometimes. Are we just buying things because we've been advertised these things, or do we actually need them?
Right, yeah.
Am I buying a new shirt every day or every month because I need to keep up with the latest fashion because someone else told me to? Do I have a job because I need to make money because I was always taught to, you go to school, get a job, marry, settle down, have children. You get a job because you need a job. And then you never really stop to think, wait, why am I doing this? What am I actually passionate about? What are my drives in life? And am I living life to the fullest? And Tyler's a lot about that. And it starts out, very introspective, each person to his own. How am I going to, are you living your best life? One of my favorite scenes is when he goes over to a guy in the middle of, who's working in a 7-Eleven. Tyler pulls out a gun, takes him out, and says, "I'm going to shoot you if you don't tell me what you want to be when you grow up." And the guy was like, I don't know, I didn't, He says, "I see you went to school, and you have your college ID here, and what did you want to be?" And the guy's like, "I want to be a vet, a veterinarian." So he's like, "If you're not a veterinarian, like in 10 weeks or on the track to become one, then I'm going to like come after you. Like you'll be dead.
Yeah.
And then Edward Snowden, I keep saying Edward Norton is like, why'd you do that? Like, how could you? That's so wrong. And Tyler's like, tomorrow he's going to wake up. He's going to be the happiest man ever. It's going to be the best breakfast ever. He's going to fulfill his potential and do what he always wanted to do, that he's been stopping himself from doing because of anxiety, dread, modern society, addiction to whatever it is, and just being mediocre and not pushing himself. And when viewed in that light, like it seems sort of relatable. I mean, very relatable, not just sort of.
Yeah.
And when you're punching someone, when you're fighting someone, you're feeling very alive. You're not just comfortably numb in society. You are, nothing matters anymore, he says. Like, you're not your job, you're not your money, you're not your relationships. All you are is a guy who's about to get punched or gonna punch. Comes down to that. And like, break everything down to basics, figure out who you are. And then it kind of gets, to the point where Tyler's like, okay, we gotta teach everyone, we gotta spread this more and more, we gotta take down the very system that, enacted this stuff in the first place. And that gets out of control.
Yeah. I feel like we want to go to the themes later, but I have to bring up Carl Jung and the shadow at this point already, because it's very Jungian, I think, the movie, like the theme of the movie. Which
do you want to give a bit of background on Carl Jung?
I should have known you would ask me to do that. Let me just dive in. I didn't read much Carl Jung, but the basic thing that I'm aware of is that he thinks of the shadow, and the shadow is kind of this subconscious part of a person that is one could say his more natural part, his less socialized part. It's like what the kind of deeper, darker things he wants. And it's possible to kind of be at extreme odds with your shadow, and it's possible to be well integrated with your shadow. And I think...
And the shadow is...
It's like this, it's like our darker part. It's our part that, wants to just go and destroy something. It's the part that, instead of being polite at the dinner table, wants to just say what I actually think about this person. Say that this food sucks or something like that.
But not just for the sake of doing something against society or taboo, but because, it's a part of you. You might actually not like these things about this person, but you hold yourself back. You might actually feel these desires.
Yeah, it's definitely a genuine part of you, and depending on how you manage it or integrate it with yourself, it can manifest itself in unhealthy ways, or it can manifest itself in healthy ways. And so that's part of the point. Part of the point is that the shadow is not bad. The shadow is not this like evil inclination. And so too with Tyler, he's not entirely wrong. But if the shadow is not handled properly, it can become something bad. It can get out of control. But the shadow often has a point, and if you don't listen to it, it'll make sure that it gets its point across somehow or another. It'll control you even if you don't want it to. So it has a point, but that point needs to be kind of integrated with the more rational part of you as well.
So sometimes these things can be contradicting, and we can behave differently in certain contexts than others. We kind of split ourselves rather than integrating if they are like really contradicting. Like,
yeah,
it could be that there's just no way for him to do what he wants to do, which is quit and take down the world and fight all day, but also have a job and also have a relationship with Marla, or maybe he doesn't want a relationship with Marla, but it splits. There's a split down the middle. There's a break.
Meaning the split between Edward Norton and Brad Pitt.
Yeah. And it's unhealthy. And it's probably the reason it starts is because of insomnia, or the book kind of hints that it starts because he met Marla. But it seems, I think, that it started because he had all of these, these things in his shadow, I guess, let's say. He doesn't want to be working 9 to 5. He hates his job, or he hates that he loves his consumerism. He hates that he's, we never find out what he actually wants to do with his life. unless it's be Tyler Durden and just take down everything. But because of that, because he can't fulfill some of these things, or there's like some contradiction in his very being and his living existence, he has insomnia, he can't sleep, he can't be settled with himself. And then he gets less sleep, he goes to these support groups, they sort of help him, they don't. Marla maybe, pushes him further with what he really wants, and then he breaks. And then Tyler's like the full manifestation of what he wants to do without any holds barred, and Edward Norton is the tamer version.
When I consume the story, I don't really try to think of it in kind of a realistic psychological way, because I don't think that it's realistic psychologically, and I don't try to like think of, okay, well, what was the trigger that kind of set off his split personality? I kind of just think of it as a thematic thing, like kind of a spiritual message about conflicting identities in a person, conflicting desires, conflicting ambitions, or like kind of it is psychological. It's like a deep psychological point, but not as if like we're actually supposed to think that the story is about this guy who is insane, and the insanity was triggered in the beginning for something, and this is actually how it could play out in an insane person. I don't really think of it that way because I doubt it plays out that way.
I don't know. I would disagree.
Okay.
Maybe you're lucky to be more at peace with your shadow. I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
But
no, see, already I think you're agreeing with me, because if it's about the shadow, it's about the shadow in a sane person who is aware that they're not some other person, running around starting terrorist organizations.
Right, but I think that that most people, I don't know. I don't have actual statistics, because people try to hide the fact that they might have different parts of them. But I think a lot of people, do struggle with, contradicting points that they could break theoretically. They just always try not to.
I think we're in total agreement. I think that's literally what I'm talking about. That's how I interpret the story. It's a story about not insane people, but actually about people.
Okay.
And how we do have this shadow in us.
Okay, I see.
But
I thought you were saying like it's separate. Like I just see this as a metaphor. It's just a storytelling technique.
Well, the particular technique that he literally has no idea that he's this other person who's running around doing stuff, and also that he never sleeps, and he's functioning as two personalities on no sleep for either one. Like all of that,
maybe one personality sleeps while the other is awake. It's like whales or something. Dolphins, half of their brain sleeps.
Okay.
They're awake.
I mean, you can explain it that way. That would still just add to the infeasibility of this premise in a realistic sense. Mm-hmm. But as a thematic, thematic story about
device,
as a device, as an artistic device about human psychology, there is a lot to talk about there and think about.
I guess so. It would. Yeah, it happens to everyone, and it's just taken further, I guess, in the story to illustrate really the example. Because it wouldn't have been as gripping if he was just an average guy, who struggled a little bit, got into a fight every so often. Like, we got to see what happens when it goes to the full extent. What happens if you really lean into this personality and let him go the full way?
Exactly. It's like, because human psychology is very complex and deep, and it's, human psychology in real life is this difficult thing to even understand. But the stories are supposed to kind of like bring out concepts in human psychology and exaggerate them and make them like Inside Out, the Pixar movie Inside Out, where the emotions in the kid's mind are actual characters, right? You got to like really just totally hyperbolize what's going on, like. Anger is a full-fledged character in your head, and that's how we're going to tell the story. It's a literary device.
Mm-hmm. Just by the way, Carl Gustav Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist, psychotherapist, and psychologist who founded the School of Analytical Psychology. So the whole shadow thing, he was a psychologist. Mm-hmm. So I've heard, there are people, that say, oh, people don't get the point of the story. You're not actually supposed to like be an anarchist. You're not actually supposed to want to destroy things and piss in people's food and fight the system. But then, I don't know, there's some, and the other people say, no, I want to like join a fight club. I want to, it's important to fight or something, feel those feelings, lean in, see what it's like when you listen to your shadow or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they both kind of agree. It's just like where you want to meet in the middle, how extreme you want to take it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the story agrees with that. I think the story's point is that part of the reason he is split into Edward Norton and Brad Pitt is that neither one is a full person. Both are at these extremes. One is too complacent, too obedient to the rules of society, and too, embedded in a system that isn't good for him as a whole person. And then there's Brad Pitt, who like totally goes in the opposite direction, and he's willing to hurt people just for the sake of a kind of emotional liberation or some psychological liberation, which also is wrong. Mm-hmm. But they're both at the ends of something, and yes, the meeting point is in the middle.
I will say, in the book, Tyler kills his boss. He kills Edward Norton's boss.
Yeah.
They're the same person. Because he says in the car, like, what do you want to be doing? Like, you don't actually want to, as they're driving and Tyler's threatening to crash the car unless everyone says, what do they want to do before they die? He says, like, I don't want to work. And then Tyler takes that as code or an agreement, nonverbal agreement that he's going to get him fired, get him, out of his job by killing his boss, by storing gasoline in his boss's monitor, and then it blows up. And in the book, they also, I think they do castrate people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems pretty clear.
But in the movie, they don't. In the movie, no one dies. No one is specifically targeted. They say, oh, no one's in the building, don't worry. When they threaten to castrate the police commissioner, they don't actually do it.
Right.
When one of the space monkeys, which is what it's the term that Tyler gives, or Edward Norton gives for the guys working in Tyler's army, when one of them dies, he feels bad about it. It was an accident. The police shot him. People weren't necessarily meant to get hurt. But
wait, who feels bad about it?
Edward Norton.
Yeah. Well, Edward Norton.
And even Tyler in the movie doesn't seem to want people to die. He wants to, get his message across, blow things up, beat people up maybe, an assault, but not necessarily cause people to die. But in the book, it's pretty clear that Tyler at some point just doesn't care.
Yeah.
If people get...
Yeah, no, I think they had to kind of make things a little milder for the movie.
Why?
Because there are things that in book form, because it's just words on a page, and each person can, take those words on the page and do what they will with their imagination. There are really dark concepts that in book form are like, I mean, it's still
You're saying it's just like a graphic thing. You can't actually show people getting their balls cut off, but
maybe
you could show him killing his boss.
But there's also
the explosion. You could.
It's not just a graphic thing. It's not just
maybe there's more. I don't know. It's a little arbitrary. It's very arbitrary, but maybe there's something in movies that, this will affect people more, and it's bad to glorify terrorism.
Maybe
in the cinema, but maybe in a book, if you're mature enough to read a book,
you're mature enough to
handle the concepts versus kids will just watch the movie.
There might be
exposed to it.
There might be something to that, but I also think that there's a similar thing going on where in the Harry Potter books, in the book, Harry will yell and scream and be much more emotional, but in the movie, it's like he's like super mellow. Because once it translates to a movie,
and the opposite with Dumbledore.
Dumbledore
yelled calmly.
Dumbledore said calmly, "Harry, did you put your name in the goblet of fire?"
Yeah.
So when things translate to a movie, very often there are lots more people involved in making that character have that raw emotion, and so it's a bit harder to accomplish. It's often easier to kind of portray it in a milder way. In a book, like J.K. Rowling is just in her head, and she's just like writing this teenage boy, and you can just write words on a page, and he's screaming, and also you can make it kind of ambiguous. How emotional is he being? And people can kind of interpret it in whatever way. In a movie, it's all much more explicit, and it can be more jarring. Also, it's hard to accomplish it in a way that feels like a decent thing to watch. Because if you just have a character screaming on screen, you have to do that properly if you want that to come across well.
Right. Like if you just write he killed his boss, then that's not the same as watching him kill his boss on the screen.
Yeah.
Although they do get pretty graphic. They're like, you mix. He's very smart, the character. He knows exactly how to make homemade explosions, homemade napalm. Nitroglycerin, mix it with sawdust and soap and cat litter, boom.
Yeah, he's always explaining how all this stuff works.
Yeah, which is a little, disturbing putting all of this in a book.
Yeah.
Which makes me think, the author did want, to create more anarchy. Not just as like a literary device, but it felt like the author actually feels a bit this way. Like he did glorify it.
Okay, I hear what you're saying there. I grappled with that too the whole time I was reading the book. I was wondering, to what extent are we supposed to understand that anarchy is kind of the message here? It's only, like, when I put the book down and I think of the story, I think to myself, anarchy is not the message. The whole point is that Tyler was wrong. But when you read it, it really brings you in. And it's hard to imagine the author writing all of that and portraying the story in such a way if he wasn't trying to say, yeah, guys, society sucks. Like,
yeah. And like, here's what you could do about it. Here are instructions. Like in a way trying to be Tyler Durden himself.
Right.
And okay, so just to quote the book, Tyler didn't care if other people got hurt or not. The goal was to teach each man in the project, Mayhem, that he had the power to control history. We, each of us, can take control of the world. So it's, he didn't care about people's lives, but he did, on the other hand. Like, it's kind of contradicting. He's like, do what you want, but also, like, kill other people if you have to get this done. And it's like, wait, do you care about us or do you not? Like, did he care about each person in Fight Club, or were they a means to an end? Like, it seems like he wants to free all of them, but also, like, enslave them for his own purposes. Or are these for, like, global, purposes? For we have to sacrifice ourselves for the better future of mankind, sort of thing.
Yeah. So when I read it and watched it, I thought that we're supposed to understand that this is not exactly coherent. This isn't rational. He's speaking out of both ends of his mouth a few times, like you described. And there's kind of this spirit of destruction that drives it all. And he'll say whatever he thinks he needs to say in order to further that spirit of destruction, right? That spirit of let's just set this place on fire. And it's the inspirational words about maximizing your potential and about freeing yourself from this oppressive society of consumerist society. That's all. Those are just words.
You think?
Well, in real life, that's how I would interpret it. Is that how the story intended it? I'm less positive. The story does, in many places, seem to be very ambiguous with its.
I don't know. I'm a little torn because from a rational perspective, it doesn't make so much sense. But I think that's the very thing that the character is grappling with. He can't figure out whether the ends justify the means.
He being
both Edward Norton, I guess. And according to Tyler, they do. And so he is pushing that message and I think he really believes that this is what's best for them. And it seems, and it's very believable that these people also, that they were going of their own volition. He doesn't force anyone. He pushes them. Would you say he manipulates them? In a way, once they agree to join.
The people who join Project Mayhem.
Yeah, and Fight Club. Like, they know what they're signing up for.
Yeah.
Unless if it's your first time at Fight Club, you have to fight. What if, you didn't, that's a little weird, because...
What if he doesn't want to?
If you don't want to.
What would happen then?
Yeah, I think you have to fight, even though, could you say, fine, I'm just going to leave?
I think you could say, fine, you're just going to leave. I think that definitely before Project Mayhem, I think Tyler Durden was just using the power of social pressure. Because when you create a thing, when you create a club, and these are the rules of the club, and you get everyone to follow the rules of the club, it's very hard for anyone who's coming as the first time, and you say the rule is, if it's the first time, you have to fight. Anyone who doesn't do that, you're not part of the club. You're not here. you can leave. I'm not forcing you to be here. You're not part of the club. You're not following the rules. Like that's he establishes this framework that is like
So it is, out of your own volition. Like you have to
in a way.
agree to the terms. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to buy into like the social contracts.
Okay. So in a way, he's not forcing people. I think the reason, although when you think about it, like what if you don't actually want to fight? But the reason he gives that you have to fight if you're the first, if it's your first time, is not necessarily to get everyone in. I think it's to establish that you can't be here and watch other people fight if you're not going to do it yourself. And this is the only way to like push them to actually, if you want to be here, this is what you have to do. You can't just like go in slowly and then decide, wait, do I want to do that? You have to jump in.
I didn't say he was trying to get more people to join with that rule. I was just I wasn't you were offering the reason for the rule. Very very fair. I wasn't offering the reason for the rule. I was offering what motivates people to follow that rule.
Okay. So I'm still trying to figure out like was he manipulative or did people like follow of their own volition? Like even Bob, the guy that dies, he was having the time of his life. He was happier than going to the support when he's about to die anyway, so maybe that's a little different. But he was happier. He felt he's living his last years, to the fullest, doing this stuff. He feels freed. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of them felt freed, and he got them to give up their homes, their family, in a way, their relationships, their job, and just work for him. And I think it's just naturally you have to threaten a few people here and there. No talking about it. No leaving. If you're serious, you got to be super serious, because otherwise it just can't exist if people defect and then talk to other people. So, it's kind of, let's say, I don't know, a Western army where once you're in, you got to be in. Now, you could leave and you don't have to join. It depends which army. But like if you're going to do it, there are consequences for not keeping your end of the bargain.
Okay.
And like serious consequence, like jail, like taking away your freedom consequence. Not just like a job where like you could get fired and that's it.
Yeah. No, I definitely think you're explaining well. Certainly from Tyler's perspective, he views it as an army. In the same way that the United States would view their army as, when you join the army, exactly as you said, you can't just desert after that. Like, you've taken on the commitment, like, we're in this, and so you have to follow the rules. Mm-hmm. And Tyler views his army in a very similar way.
The same with, British army. Even the Israeli army you could get out of, even if there's conscription. But, like, you can't just leave in the middle. I mean, you could, but it's kind of hazy, but you could get in trouble.
Well, there's a difference between just leaving, just abandoning your duty, deserting your comrades, and there's a difference between that and in a time, between things you have to do, going to the proper authorities and getting out in a way that everyone understands. Like, okay, well,
although it might be left over, from older armies. In the past, the Roman army was at some point a volunteer army, but a lot of armies, they had to press gang and force people into the army because that was the only way they could get people to give up their leave their family, lose everything and join this army. Mm-hmm. So they had to force them in, and if you leave, then you get shot. So there's very serious penalties for desertion. Now, nowadays, if you desert, it's not that the army necessarily needs you, and it's not as if you leave, then like everyone else is going to leave because they see that they could get away with it, and therefore we have to make an example out of you by shooting you. I mean, it's more like maybe it's a little left over from that, that they don't want to just let people leave. Or maybe it does set a model example because other people would leave in the middle, I guess.
You're suggesting that people now have this sense that is something we have to not allow to happen, but people no longer are thinking rationally, like the reasons why this is not allowed.
Like it's a leftover artifact a bit from previous armies. Why you have to go to jail if you're not going to serve?
So
you have to.
What's the point here? That if it's a volunteer army anyway, why can't you just leave?
Yeah, whenever you want. Give 30 days notice.
Oh, well, yeah, maybe that's.
Or be sued. Like, why isn't getting sued the penalty? Why is going to jail the penalty?
Well, it might be. I wasn't expecting to think about this, but it might be.
Right, it's a little off track, and we could get back.
No, it's okay.
It's connected because of Tyler's army and how he's keeping his people in line.
It's okay. We can go a little off topic. It might be that when it comes to the military, there has to be a different ethic than regular life. Regular ethics, your regular sense of what you are, what you deserve, what is expected of you, that needs to go out the window. When you go into the military, you have to adopt this ethic of
collectivism.
Yeah, like you are not
individual.
you're not an individual. Yeah, you are part of a unit. You're part of an army, but not just the army. Your unit, your squad, and you follow the protocol. Not just the protocol. There are certain things that are even like beneath the protocol, more foundational to the protocol, more foundational to orders and the whatever the assignment is. And one of those things is you don't quit. I mean, you quit if you you finish the assignment, you're at base, and you file some paper and you're like, I need to quit. That's fine to me. But when you're on the assignment is what I'm talking about. When you're in the battlefield, you don't abandon your comrades. Why? Because that you have to. In order for your military to function, in order for your soldiers to have the courage and the strength to go into battle, they have to feel, number one, that they have each other's backs, and they have to be really devoted to that. And that ethic just has to exist. Like, you do not abandon your unit while you're out there.
Mm-hmm. And I want to, talk about what I think when listening to you say this, and as I think about it more, the central contradiction of Fight Club. There's a rule. You don't talk about Fight Club, but obviously the only way it's going to grow is if you talk to other people about Fight Club. And he has this whole army that has to follow rules, strict rules. And he's all about breaking the rules.
Uh-huh.
He's all about taking down structure and hierarchy. And that's what anarchy is. But in order to do so, he has to build a hierarchy.
Yes, absolutely.
And so he winds up with all of these like rules to life. You have to do this in order to free yourself. But by doing that, by following those rules, you are also enslaved to those rules.
Yes.
And so it's this central contradiction which is pulling this character apart, splitting him apart. It's this whole back and forth between Edward Norton and Brad Pitt that's like the central, give and take of the movie. And as a reader, that's why it's such a roller coaster to read and watch and consume, because you're just like, it's so back and forth. Like, I agree with him. Yeah, this is great. But wait, do I actually? And then it's just this constant struggle you're feeling while reading it. Like, is he the good guy? Oh, I don't know. Is he the bad guy? Like,
he
is
being
he
Tyler Durden.
Well, both of them. I don't know who's who by the end. It's such a mind twisting mind fuck. I'll just say it.
Yeah. Okay.
And that it just, I don't know. It leaves you disturbed a bit by the end, which is good.
Yeah.
It leaves an impression, and it leaves you confused and thinking about stuff and realizing, maybe there's no necessarily one side that's right. Both sides have their merit, and I gotta think through this and contemplate it, reflect.
Nice. That was very well said. Some parts of my mind were kind of dancing around what you just said, but hadn't quite gotten there, and so that was great to hear that. And I do. This occurs in other kind of dystopian stories, and I don't know if Fight Club can be called a dystopian story, but we can imagine that if Tyler Durden were to fully succeed and establish his vision for the world, it would become this kind of dystopian novel or dystopian movie where, like in 1984, the Big Brother government is full of these contradictions, because you kind of have to be full of these contradictions when you're this kind of cult-like authority who's selling a message of freedom to individuals, but in order to maintain your structure, you have to actually take away people's freedom. So inevitably, you're walking yourself into these contradictions, and so the government in 1984. I don't know. Have you read 1984? Yeah. So they're full of this double speak. War is freedom. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. That sort of thing.
It's a bit overt there, and how could anyone actually believe that? But it's to get the message across. Yeah. And not to necessarily take it to a place of communism and capitalism.
Okay. I wasn't
But to take it there,
Okay.
Both of these utopian visions and ways of life, they both offer freedom, and then they both wind up taking it away in different respects. So communism will say everyone's going to be equal. We'll have one central party controlling everything, and then there's no competition, and then there's no freedom. And then capitalism says, oh, we'll all compete for everything, and then it opens up to this kind of dystopia that if it is a dystopia, this modern world, then we're living in it, that Tyler Durden's talking about. In fact, it passed already 20 years ago. But
Well, yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that part, but yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, its main themes are consumerism, but it also reflects on capitalism and the inevitability of getting addicted to whatever the most best competing advertising product is. If you allow everyone to just free market advertise whatever is best, and then you have this sandbox for evolution to take over, where the most addicting product with the best traits for addiction and being consumed will take over, survives, just by evolution. So it just opens up that door to leave us defenseless against all of these corporations just competing to take over our lives and own us ultimately.
Okay. Wow. We did talk about capitalism.
We
versus
did, and
communism,
I don't want to drag us back
2
into
episodes
it
ago.
too much, but I do think it's relevant. I think Fight Club is more focused on the consumerism aspect of capitalism. It's less to attack capitalism directly. It's not like suggesting communism is any better. It's saying anarchy is actually better.
So here's where I do want to disagree, just in terms of the interpretation of the story, because we mentioned before that is the story
right
against
actually
is the
pushing anarchy?
Yeah, is the story against anarchy or pro-anarchy? And like I said, when I digest the story and then put it down and then think about it, I think to myself that it's against anarchy, because ultimately the goal of the protagonist is to stop Tyler Durden's whole operation. But when you're reading it, it really pulls you into this kind of Tyler Durden mentality, and it kind of almost
glorifies
it. It seems to glorify it. Yeah, exactly. So it almost feels like the story is trying to persuade you to support Tyler Durden's worldview here, or his mission here.
And before we were talking about the author and how he's pushing it, and how it really sounds like he wants to be Tyler and stuff. But I want to say that apparently he listened to 9 Inch Nails, which is a heavy metal, I'm pretty sure, rock band, the whole time he typed it. So he put himself into that mind space of insomnia and feeling what it's like when you just lean into the shadow and just write. And so we could be talking or listening to an author that has this split personality as well, and says, on one hand he does actually want anarchy, and on the other hand he doesn't. So
maybe that's why there are so many typos in the book.
Right. That's the other thing, that the book, at least the version we downloaded and the other ones I looked at, typos everywhere. And it could be because he was listening to 9 Inch Nails and then wanted to leave all these artifacts in to show the insanity that and the contradictions latent in this entire topic, that no matter what, you're gonna have to grapple with this stuff. It's gonna drive you crazy, and it's just disorder at some point. That's inevitable.
Yeah, interesting. Now there's such a thing as committing to the art, and especially as an artist, I think that people who are really artistic, and maybe the guy who wrote this really has that artistic streak in him. People who are really artistic are kind of willing to go there, willing to commit to kind of this warped worldview that they're adopting for the story.
Method acting.
Kind of like a method writing, we can call it. When they do know that the point of their own story is that this is wrong, and they of course themselves believe that this is wrong, but for the purpose of the art.
Or even that they could lose it.
Meaning they could get so into it
engrossed in it that they
that they themselves
turn that off.
Uh-huh.
That's what makes a great actor. That they've lost.
Maybe.
Like they entirely believe what their character is saying
Yeah.
and could just push out any personal feelings at that moment.
Name like an actor performance that you think is like one of the best actor performances. Like name something like that.
Well, Jim Carrey was a big method actor.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not. That's not an example of what you're asking for. But he would go around when he was. I forget which movie it was. There's a song after the guy, but he would go and like pick fights, with people. He would just like pretend to be this person he's trying to play for days. He refused to talk to anyone not in this style.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's some criminal masterminds that I don't know. The guy who plays Heisenberg in Breaking Bad,
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston.
He's a method actor.
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying he's not in terms of method acting, in terms of the other thing you said, where he just feels so engrossed in it that he just like I don't know. It's hard to believe what he actually feels. A terrible example, actually, because you interview him and he's actually a great guy.
Yeah.
What you're looking for?
What I'm trying to get across is, I think when you think of the greatest actors or the greatest acting performances, they weren't method acting.
So I think Jim Carrey, even when you talk to him and watch interviews of him you never saw like an authentic self. He was always crazy. He never turned it off. Robin Williams was always Robin Williams, and he was always like, I don't know, maybe I still think Jim Carrey is the best example because he's just crazy.
But Jim Carrey always seems to be essentially acting like himself. Sometimes he acts like himself with a little bit of another character, like he does act as different characters, but he always has a bit of Jim Carrey in him. So that's not, to me, that like, is that better acting than somebody who can really become a different person? Like Bryan Cranston, he is like a different person in the roles he plays. Like when he's Walter White, he is like, you can't even recognize him. And when he's the guy from...
Yeah, I don't know. I still think of him as Malcolm in the Middle. I don't know. For me, they seem like...
For you, it was tough?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like a character who really, like an actor who could really play a good guy and then a bad guy.
Heath Ledger.
Okay. He played in A Knight's Tale as a good guy and the Joker. Yeah, he's pretty good. Yeah. And I have no idea what Heath Ledger's his personality is actually like, his genuine personality.
Right. I mean, I've heard he's
probably a nice guy.
I've heard he was a very nice guy.
It could also be they're all fooling us, because they're such good actors. Of course they're going to be nice guys and sound like great guys.
No, because I think
because they're so good at acting and they know that's what people want to see.
Well, okay. But
there's got to be something that when you're acting, it's like when you're a good actor, you could turn everything off and just become the person. You don't give a crap.
But it's the same way that when you're good at programming, you can't program all the time. You have to stop at some point. You have to take a break. You have to,
well, I think the best actors are like kind of like a little psychotic.
See, I don't know. I feel that a good actor can show up to work, he can get into his mindset, and for the not even necessarily a few minutes, sometimes for the 20 seconds that he has to be in character while the camera's rolling, he can pull it off really well. And then the camera stops, and he just goes back to being a normal person. And that is, first of all, it's far healthier when you think about it. Also, it's not only is it healthier, it's just like much easier to work with. Like I wouldn't want to be on set with a method actor and I'd have to work with this person.
So people hated working with Jim Carrey because he refused to
annoying.
turn it off.
It's freaking annoying.
He would get into fights with the person he thought he was supposed to get into, and he actually pissed him off.
Yeah, it's just like, and for what? Like,
and he got punched in the face because of the art. The art is so holy.
Yeah, but I don't think that actually, like, if the camera's not rolling, you're not increasing the quality of the film by pretending to be this character. When
this is the whole point.
This isn't going to be in the film.
You're
wasting your energy as well.
That's the point. To use your energy
to completely
become
that person
all the time, to make the time when you are in front of the rolling camera that much better,
that much more authentic.
And I think you talk to people. You hear these actors talk in interviews, and they say they've lost themselves in roles and it messed with them.
Yes.
I think Heath Ledger also.
Yeah.
Or was it Jared Leto who actually behaved like the Joker, for months before or weeks before, trying to get into it, and would
No, that was, I think, Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger?
I think Heath Ledger locked himself in a hotel room for a month.
Yeah.
And I think he obviously ate, but didn't eat that much, kind of trying to become skinnier, I think. and also just like remain in solitary in a room for like a
Right.
month.
And he had the best performance, but it was probably not healthy, and
Yeah, no,
it
so
probably messed with him.
I do think,
long-term.
I do think when I hear stories about Heath Ledger and the Joker, it sounds like he definitely pushed it to, kind of getting to the boundary there. But I still hear when I looked up how Heath Ledger died, because when you first hear it, it's like, oh my gosh, did he die from this role? Like, did this role like push him to insanity, and then like he had to go on drugs, and then he died. Like that's what people kind of like piece together in their minds when they heard that he died. But the more I researched about it online, the more it seemed like that's really not what happened. Like the people who worked with him on The Dark Knight said that like, yeah, no, he was still him. Like the camera would go off and it would be Heath. Like he's fine. He was fine. Like he wasn't like
Maybe he was just acting. Like
he was now the Joker and he had to pretend to be Heath.
Exactly.
But he just had, in general, he had trouble sleeping, and in general he had anxiety, and so obviously it was super sad and very unfortunate that he ended up dying while he was working on his next movie. But it doesn't sound like it was really the role killed him in some way that pushed him to some edge or over some edge. And that strikes me as just like at the end of the day, it's acting, it's pretending. You're supposed to be, and that's like as humans, we are able to pretend. That's one of the things we're able to do. And while the camera's rolling, for that time that you have to pretend, get all into it, get fully into it, completely get into the role, because you know it's pretending while the camera's rolling. Once the camera's off, you have to go back to yourself in order to remain sane. And like you should obviously remain sane. Like I don't see how it necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not healthy, but I still stand by. I think by what I said. I think that like these people are a little bit psychotic
Crazy.
in that they could turn it off and on so easily that they do lose themselves and their genuine self in a lot of the roles. I've heard, criticism of Hollywood and how, they preach certain values and like they're just adult pretenders and, they don't, it's hard to say that they even have principles themselves because they're always like so able to be, they're able to manipulate themselves and change their character so easily. So it makes them less reliable or something. That's the thinking. Yeah, obviously it depends which person and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're not probably a big fan of Hollywood messaging necessarily. I don't know.
No,
Maybe.
generally I don't think that Hollywood is filled with the values that I hold. But
Even if they did have your values, them being a platform for messaging, what are your feelings about that? Because Hollywood has transformed. It's much less nowadays. I think everyone could kind of agree that cinema is dead, and that it doesn't have the same influence. The the Golden Globes,
Oscars.
People still find it interesting, but it's dead. It's dying. It's the great actors, aren't as revered anymore. Everyone's
Right.
gone into TV, but them being and they broadcast American culture across the world, influenced societies across the world through movies and messaging through those movies. I guess I don't know how I feel about it. I love it, and I probably don't love certain aspects. Probably I don't like the aspects that I disagree with.
Wait, you're saying just the fact that they have so much reach
And power, yeah,
and kind of power in terms of
influence.
their influence, their ability to get into the minds of people. Is that necessarily a problem? I mean, no, like fundamentally no, because this is where I get into. I don't really agree with the whole anti-consumerism message of Fight Club, because at the end of the day, like we watch movies out of our own volition. We can choose not to watch the movies that we don't want to watch. And also, I just have more faith in the human mind and the human spirit. I think we're independent people. I think we have a sort of biological need to be independent. I
disagree, but yes.
I don't think we're so easily brainwashed. Certainly not by just a movie that you watch twice. How many movies is somebody? Let's say somebody watches one movie a day. Still, that's only like 2.5 hours of your day. I don't think
One movie a day.
Let's say if you watch one movie a day. I'm just saying. Like I'm being
Right.
generous.
Which is
I don't think most.
I think a lot of people watch a lot more. At least TV. And it didn't used to be like I think it's skyrocketed.
Well,
I
if
think
you-
all people do is consume media.
I mean, if you're like off work for 2 weeks and you're just hanging out. And,
No, off work after you get home, what do you do? Consume media.
There's dinner to make, and there's just other things to do. Like I don't know, you're gonna watch how many, like more than one movie after work?
But, okay, I'm saying like 2 hours worth of media.
Okay, yeah. That's one movie.
I think that's lower than average.
Okay, let's say I'm generous, and I guess the
And
point.
I think that has a huge effect on your day, because you're not like when you're just doing the dishes, you're not really like being affected in terms of your thinking at all. Like,
Well,
it's not active thinking, it's not passive thinking. Really, you're just doing a lot of things you're doing have no effect on your personal beliefs throughout the day. It's only when you sit in front of a movie that you're like, or reading a book or something, or talking to someone.
your mind is not just the things it consumes. Your mind is the things it generates.
Yeah, but if we're talking about brainwashing, which that was the term you used, then the only time brainwashing becomes relevant is when you're having opinions discussed, pushed on you, something.
Yeah, but my point is that humans are not so easily brainwashed.
But I'm saying that you're saying, oh, it's only 2 hours a day. I'm saying those 2 hours are the most important part of your day in terms of brainwashing potential.
It's only 2 hours a day, but those 2 hours where you're sitting in front of the screen,
Those are like the most, I don't know, those 2 hours have the most potential for brainwashing you, for pushing a message.
why do they have the most potential?
Because otherwise, the rest of the day, you're doing mundane tasks that, okay, if you're
But
talking to someone, like,
I think you're viewing the human being as this kind of vessel that like it collects things that are put into it throughout the day, and when it's just
yes.
yeah, I don't view humans that way.
You think that our opinions just kind of arise out of, this place in our heads,
I certainly think that
independent of
we have
what we watch.
Yeah, well, we're not blank slates. I don't believe that at all. And in fact, when I think about blank slate, the blank slate theory, I don't know if that's what it's called, but
Tabula rasa.
when I think about tabula rasa, thank you, I think it's the most ludicrous idea, one of the most ludicrous ideas I've ever heard. Like, I think we know.
I mean, obviously, we're born with certain parts, desire to eat, taste of food.
It's not just that. Personality forms already by like the age of 2, even earlier.
Well, I guess, parts of your opinions are based off of your personality, whether you're like, an agreeable person versus a very vocal person.
Yeah.
And that will definitely have effect on your final opinions.
Yeah.
But
But
I still think that, I don't know, the fact that we love talking about all of these different stories and mythos and comparing, what did you think about this story, that story, pop culture, we're just always consuming all of these different stories and brands and objects that corporations and Hollywood offers us, and then just processing them, and then large parts of them stay with us, some get thrown out. It's like food.
But I think you're putting the cart before the horse. It's not as if Hollywood has conditioned us to love their material. We love stories because humans are very social. We are human. We have identities, and we have these very, very well formed identities. Obviously, it varies, and they're very deep. And there's a lot going on there. There's lots of information, and it's very fun for us to discover things about ourselves that we couldn't articulate to ourselves. And it's very fun to kind of like learn about other people and kind of see the pattern, to kind of see like, okay, we're similar but also different, that sort of thing. We love stories. That's our nature. So Hollywood gives us what we already love. It's not as if we've been conditioned to love like,
I don't
movies and books.
I think that's only half of it. I think obviously if they're gonna show us a piece of crap, it's not gonna be as appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
But I think especially through the past century, up until cinema started dying, until YouTube became more mainstream and you could really cater to your own personal desires and tastes.
Mm-hmm.
Up until then, whatever was put out, you had to see. It was, oh, this is the big movie, you gotta watch it.
But
you go into a movie without knowing what it is that you're about to consume.
wait, so you think movies are better nowadays than they were 30 years ago?
No. I think that there's a lot more media to consume according to whatever taste you want nowadays. But I think back then you had far less choice, and therefore everyone just went more like a blank mind to the movies.
But shouldn't that mean, first of all, that 30, 40 years ago, the movies were far worse because people had to go see them anyway? It was the only thing to see.
Less, I mean, I think some of it is definitely, yeah, I mean, not far worse, but some of them were worse. A lot of it also has to do with the fact that they put in less effort to the art nowadays when making a movie. It used to be that they would put so much work into production and just every little detail, and now it's just give it to the computer effects guys, they'll fix it up.
Yeah.
We'll fix it all in post.
Okay.
You don't have these directors who would scream at their actors and take after take until they got exactly what they were looking for. Now, actors have a lot more say in what they want to do, and the power's with the actors rather than with the directors.
Okay.
Sort of for a lot.
But still, if we focus on 40 years ago, then doesn't that mean that if the director, even if the methods were questionable, the director was really trying hard to produce a very high quality movie?
Yes, but in terms of opinion storylines, it's still up to the writer what they want to push. They didn't necessarily know what everyone wanted to see, but they had a good idea of it, and that's why I'm saying half of it is, a movie will be successful if it's good, but it's also that you had these people that would just push a movie because they were in Hollywood. They're pushing, oh, you got to see the new Quentin Tarantino movie, and then you're obviously going to watch it because you know he's a big director, and the previous ones were rated so high. Oh, there's a new.
First of all, Quentin Tarantino is notorious for being a rather niche director. He doesn't appeal. He doesn't appeal to. He's very well known.
Okay, bad example.
He's very popular.
Maybe not the best example.
But he is niche.
He's not niche.
He's niche. Not everybody said. The average person doesn't say to himself, "I need to see the new Quentin Tarantino movie." He appeals to. There's a target audience for his movies. His movies are very dark, very violent.
Okay, so 18 plus is the niche.
Yeah, but it's not as if once you hit 18, suddenly you're like, oh, I love watching dark and violent movies. There's a certain type of person who likes Quentin Tarantino movies.
I think there's a certain status you get to. Oh, Christopher Nolan, you got to see the new one, Oppenheimer. Oh, it's so good.
Okay.
I didn't think it was so good.
Better example. I didn't think Oppenheimer was so good either.
Yeah, at least I like the flashback parts, not the Robert Downey Jr. thing. I didn't think that was necessary. I thought the pace was off.
Mm.
My point is just that back then, Hollywood, whatever ultimately the writers wanted to and the directors thought would be interesting, it was their call, and therefore they got to make these movies. Everyone wanted to do something over the weekend. You just got to go to the movies because it's popular. It's what you do. And therefore you sit there, and then whatever was the thing, oh, Rambo in the jungle. Yeah, this is, all of a sudden, you want to be Rambo, even though you never had an inkling that, like, you want to be Rambo or the Terminator or Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, that's false. We all had inklings that we wanted to be the Terminator or Rambo. The movie just kind of like put that on the screen and gave it a name. But we all had it. We all had
it
that.
It was there, even though we never thought of such a thing.
We thought of such a thing.
Yeah, being dropped into the jungle and just with 2 submachine guns and just shooting everyone.
Yeah, pretty much. As a kid,
this whole genre came up because.
No, dude, I'm thinking I can remember being a kid, and I'm remembering just like imagine.
Those movies came out before.
You're saying because I was already but I was
action figures.
I was young
He-Man,
enough. Yeah.
Those were all pushed.
Kids. First of all,
it's a feedback cycle because obviously it didn't come out of nowhere.
Benjy. It's not easy. It's not easy to push something on a kid. By the way, if a kid doesn't like something, it's actually quite hard to put something onto them. And even if you succeed, there'll be something off about it. Like you can kind of coerce them, maybe if you're intimidating enough, or you can entice them with reward or whatever. But they won't really enjoy it.
With messaging, with programming, with
advertising. Kids don't care about advertising.
You could get them to do, I don't know, to love some crazy stuffed animal that
no.
Kids are so malleable.
No, kids are very malleable,
okay,
but
give me
we're
an
talking
example
about different
of something that you can't push to kids because a kid just wouldn't want it.
Well, I was about to make the distinction between kind of like when you take things that are in the adult realm, right? How the world works, what you should learn at school, what you should do with your life, you kind of like paint yourself as the adult. You can convince a kid of anything, right? He'll trust you. You're the adult. But when it comes to his playtime, a kid's playtime is sacred. He's not going to play with things that he doesn't enjoy. You can't just be like, and parents know this. I'm not a parent. I've seen parents try this with their kids. I've seen it happen throughout my life. I've seen parents try to be like, don't you want to play with this doll? And the kid doesn't want to. The mother, the father, they're trying to get the kid to play for whatever weird reason in the parent's head. They want their kid to play with this particular thing, or they want their kid to like this particular thing. The kid will like what they like. When it comes to telling the kid how the world works, and you're the adult, that sort of thing, the kid will buy anything because you're in the adult realm. But when you go into the kid realm, and the kid's playtime is kid realm, that's his time. He'll play with what he wants.
But in the kid's playtime, okay?
Yeah.
You could get him to play the good guy or the bad guy.
Yeah.
You could brainwash him to love the good guy.
No, I don't think so.
Or to love the bad guy.
Well, no, you can show
say,
him.
Oh, this action figure guy, he just like kills people, kills all the villages, lights them all on fire, feeds them all to alligators. Cool. And then have your advertisements like that. Have a movie about that guy.
Okay.
And then you could all, like a Darth Vader, just slaughters younglings. Yeah.
Well, okay.
And then on the other hand, you could have, Angel Man. He saves people from burning buildings. Superman.
Well, hold on.
Doesn't do anything wrong.
It's a good thing that we show heroic stories to kids, right? And encourage them to be good people, right?
Sure.
So
but I'm just
that's
saying,
not brainwashing.
It could have been other way around. Also, you could brainwash kids to love terrorists.
And
play with terrorist action figures.
Yes, no, that's true. Wow. Okay, you threw me for a loop there, but there is a difference going on here. So it's important to teach good values to your kids, and one of the ways to do that is with good stories. And you want the stories to be founded on good values. And because good and evil is such a fundamental concept that also is not. What's the word for a blank slate again?
Tabula rasa.
Tabula rasa, yeah. Like we learn good and evil. No, good and evil is like very innate. Good and evil is this like fundamental thing that is immediately in every story you watch as a kid. It's not as if like good.
We can't even do that with Fight Club. We don't
it's
know.
Not as if
is he a good guy or bad? Do we like him or not?
It's not about knowing, but just the concept. Just that kind of like pull one way or the other, good, bad, right? We each want to know, is this good, is this bad? But inside of us, we are very clear on what's good and what's bad. It's when it comes to mapping that sense into the real world and coming up with complex conclusions, that becomes complex, that becomes ambiguous, that is hard to pin down. But that doesn't mean the thing itself, as this foundational part of our psychology, was handed to us after we were born at some point, and we just kind of digested this from the world. It's absurd. That's my opinion.
Okay, but again...
But wait.
I'm not saying that, like, the fundamental idea that something could be good and something could be bad...
Well, Blank Slate would say that as well is handed to us.
No, it's what you interpret as good and what you interpret as bad is something that could be taught.
But why do you interpret anything as good? Why do you interpret anything as bad? Why do you
but
have?
Who cares that?
Why do you have this powerful sensation of good and powerful sensation
word
of bad?
that describes good and evil?
Because
that
it's not,
don't mean anything.
Because they
but
do
then
mean something.
Afterwards, you can come along and say, these things belong in that box. These things belong in this box.
No, because they do mean something.
That
There's something
is
very, very
tabula
deep
rasa.
in our psychology that is activated when we think of good, and there's something very, very deep in our psychology that is activated when we think of evil. And those things are deep. Those things are
they're abstract.
built in there.
Evil just means something that shouldn't be done and that I don't like.
You're distilling
how
it.
that manifests.
You're
itself.
distilling it to the abstract concept. But
No, that's what kids feel. If you ask someone if you ask a kid to explain what's bad, they'll say it's something you're not supposed to do.
Well, sure, because they can't put into words what's really going on. They feel a very visceral sensation at the thought of bad, a very visceral sensation at the thought of good, as even though they're...
Sure, a pre-programmed, like,
so it's pre-programmed, so it's not...
If someone were to tell me
slate.
this is evil, then I'd feel, disgust, because that pre-programmed disgust...
So it's not blank slate, it's pre-programmed.
The idea of good and evil might be pre-programmed, but what those actually mean is not, and that's the whole important aspect of it in terms of brainwashing.
As long as at least we can accept that the human being is not a blank slate. There's a lot of things that are built into the psychology.
But they're not important in the same way.
For this discussion, fine. We can now focus, but we're having multiple discussions at once here, I think. But that's fine. We can now focus on what we're talking about in this discussion. Brainwashing. I'm starting to lose.
Okay, it's fine. I want to get back to anarchy a bit more.
Well, wait. Just one more thing. Just one thing about the consumerism and about the brainwashing.
Oh, so we'll do consumerism, I guess. Okay.
I thought we're already talking about consumerism.
Yeah, we are, but we'll go back to that,
Okay.
and then we'll get to
Because
anarchy a little later.
because we're also talking about brainwashing.
We're talking about a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's do consumerism.
But we've been doing consumerism, I thought, because we're talking about
We
brainwashing.
haven't really discussed it.
Okay.
What is consumerism?
All right. All I wanted to say was that the fact that you can choose not to buy the product, you can turn off the advertising, you can turn off the movie. The fact that you always have that choice, it's in your hands.
That's just what they tell you.
No, it's in your hands. You have the freedom, which is very different from the government coming to you and saying, we will put you in jail if you don't do the following.
I think the whole point of Fight Club, okay, not the whole point. One of the points it makes is how difficult it is to free ourselves from consumerism. If we just could say, yeah, okay, I'll turn it off, I don't need it, that wouldn't be Fight Club. You have to punch it out of yourself. You have to threaten yourself with death. That's the whole time at the beginning. He's trying to get himself to use death as a way to focus himself on what is truly important and what is someone else telling me is important.
Okay.
And he also, he almost crashes into a ditch, uses the gun with the guy in the supermarket, we said. And when you think of death, everything becomes more clear. Everything, maybe I don't actually need to eat this much. Maybe I don't need all these clothes. Maybe all that's important are my connections with my friends and family. What am I doing with my time? Am I pursuing this? If I knew I was going to die in a year, I wouldn't go back to my job. So then why am I working my job now when I could very well die in a year? I could get into an accident. Why am I wasting my finite time on this earth doing something that I don't want to be doing?
Well, there's a problem with that thinking, right?
Well, I personally, I've used it a lot more in the past for myself. I think it kind of paralyzed me from actually getting things done.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I wasn't, embracing it fully. I don't know. I think I should have. I think it is important for people to get perspective on their life. And some of it could be, go to a hospital. Like, you don't necessarily have to drive yourself off a cliff. Like, go to a hospital and don't lie at a support group, but talk to people who are elderly, spend time with them, spend time with sick people, spend time with your family, review, whether, does this job make you happy, or is it just something you're doing for money? Now, on the other hand, if we just listen to there is a problem. You can't not have a job. That's the problem with modern society. It could be in the past, you did have to do some work to survive. You had to always be hunting, gathering, be aware of where the seasons are, but you would live one with the earth, and it would be about just surviving and getting to the next, spending all your time being very in nature and one with your animal self. Nowadays, you spend hours in front of a screen. It's very separate. It's undeniable. You're not living how humans have evolved to live.
Mm-hmm.
And you've just, it makes you lose perspective. You start thinking, the color on this web page, if that could be your job, and now that's so important. And I had this at my last job where they just make big things out of mountains, out of molehills, just to keep themselves busy. You always have to look busy. You always have to be working on something. I couldn't stand that. We both work in high tech. There's probably a lot of disagreement in the field, especially because of COVID and stuff, but about work-life balance, working from home. What does it mean? How important should your work be? And there is a difference between Gen X, Gen Y, or they say there is. Maybe it's just the same things going over and over, but each generation says, oh, the next generation doesn't know how to work. They don't know how to they can't handle things. They don't live their work as they should or something. And it's a little, it's a little weird. Each generation, maybe in the past, it was more about like you had to do your job in order to support your kids because there was just not, you were an immigrant or something. If you weren't part of a wealthy family, then like you sacrificed yourself doing a job you didn't want to do, but because you love your kids. And now your kids' generation can do whatever they want, and then they have to think, wait, am I doing this because I want to do it? Now they have choice. They have to think, I'm not just doing this because I have to. Now I have to decide what I want to do. That opens up a whole bunch of new questions. And then you have generations which are like, wait, now this isn't my whole life. Like the Gen X generation, that was when Fight Club came out. What I've heard is that they're more about work is your life. You live there. They love traveling, spending their time with colleagues, and like they wind up losing part of their original life. And the people that they're with all day and colleagues become their friends and the people that are most important to them. Nowadays, the younger generations are like, no, I don't give a crap. I just want to go to work to make money, come home, and just, I don't know, do whatever the younger generations do, probably consume media or whatever. But they're not as invested in their colleagues or their life at work as much. They want more separation.
Yeah, I know when I finished college and started working, I had that mentality. I was like, why would I now, like, I've lived so much life before this. I have friends outside of work. I don't want to just abandon all of who I was and now just kind of dive into work and make that my entire life and make those my only friends. Like the whole thing just sounded ridiculous. So of course, it just seems far healthier to me to say like, yeah, okay, I have to go to work now to make money. Like that's what I have to do now. But there's so much more to my life, and there's so much more that I care about, and I do want to do other things as well. And unfortunately, now it feels like I've been working so long, it feels like I've lost that a bit, maybe a lot. But I do remember very vividly that that's absolutely what I was thinking when I kind of had to go to work after college. And that's what it felt like. Like, now I have to go to work. Like, now I have to make money. Like, now I can't do what I enjoy doing. Now I can't just, like, study things for the sake of studying things and enjoy... now I can't enjoy the theory of computation for the beauty of it. I have to actually, like, apply it in order to, I have to be subservient to the wishes of business people and product managers.
And you took, like, a month off unpaid or something to kind of...
You mean like this year?
This year.
Yeah.
To, I guess, get back in touch. I kind of mutually left my job. As kind of, I don't know, getting a little burnt out.
Yeah.
Manager saw that as well. And I don't know, I got to say, I think Fight Club had a big effect on me. Or just, other things that I felt similar to, like the same feelings that, wait, am I doing what I want to do with my, short life on this planet? And, I really enjoyed the people that I worked with. There were some frustrations that came with the work that I didn't like, whether it was how it was programmed, what the company would do is spending their time on things that I didn't think was important, and like pushing me to always be working on something, even if everything was like fine, or just like pushing me to do things that weren't the right priority. But I liked the people themselves. I liked spending time with them. And whether that was healthy or not, I don't know. I think it was, because I think that it's even worse if you don't enjoy the people that you're spending time with, and then it just makes you even more miserable. But this whole idea of, should I be working? Should I not? Like, is it a means to an end? Or maybe I should be doing something that I just love every day, that I wake up and, get a joy out of doing it. Or sometimes you have to support your family. I'm not at the point where I have children yet, so I don't have to. It's not like I'm forced to work, but it is a brain.
Well, you have to support yourself, don't you?
Yeah, but it's easier to support. When you have kids, there's just a lot more anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thinking about the future.
Yeah.
And I don't know, when I think about death, when I watch Fight Club, I'm not working right now, looking to maybe work. But when I watch Fight Club, I'm like, it gives me this sense of, whoa, I gotta get back control. I got to figure out, am I doing what I want to do? Do I want to be working in this field? Do I have any choice? It is a wake-up call of a movie, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If I was working, I think it would hit even harder.
I think it might hit less because, for me,
Yeah.
because I'm just so already like
Numb
you still
to
have hope.
everything.
Yeah, I you
What
still
do you mean I still have hope?
you still have hope that like you'll find something that makes you feel alive and that you wake up in the morning and you're excited to do it. And
Why do I? First of all, at some point, I'll just need a job and I'll have to do it. And you can't just do something that you want to do. Maybe it is easier. Maybe I've just been going about it wrong and I just have to choose a different field that I just actually like more. Or maybe what I like is so non-financially responsible that it's just, there's nothing out there, or it's just surfing and then I got to live on the beach and lower my expectations and live in some far-off country where everything is much cheaper and not think about my future and retirement or whatever.
See, but the thing is, I've come to feel about myself that if my job was surfing, I would now just hate surfing. Because once anything is my job, like once I have to do it, then I don't want to do it. Like no matter what it is.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Like I one of my roommates in the past, he loved cooking, and I was like, so why don't you monetize this? Like, no, I can't, because then I'll hate it.
Yeah.
I hear that. I personally disagree with that. I think that it's just a mindset thing. I think if you treat it like your job,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, you'll hate it because you feel like it's gonna require some work, but you always have to be reminding yourself like, wow, this is great living. I get to surf all day, and I've seen people. I don't think it's so crazy. I've met people, not that I can name offhand, because it's kind of rare.
Mm-hmm.
But there must be people out there that love what they do.
Yeah.
I don't know. If I was an actor, I feel like acting would be like such a fun job. You're paid well. It's sure there's stresses, but there's no way that you don't love it when you get there. You get to interact with people, be it but you think eventually it becomes like, ugh.
But you don't get the role that you
act
wanted. You're not the lead role. You're the extra, or you're not the extra. You're the I have to play this. I have to play the comedic sidekick again.
That's back to doing things that then you're not actually doing the job you want in a way, because then you're saying, oh, I'm doing you want to be an actor in major roles. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, you only get major role acting.
Okay, fine.
Would you eventually just?
Yeah, being an extra was not a good example because then you're not really an actor. Yeah, but still.
But also, you're not happy with that job. That's your job, being an extra, not just, oh, sometimes your job sucks, sometimes I don't know, maybe it does. Maybe there are always aspects of it that you'll hate, and that it's truly impossible to say, oh, I love something so completely. But anything you love, there's going to be aspects of it that you don't love.
Well, because the problem is whenever you do something that is for work, you end up having to do so much that isn't the thing itself. The business of it, it becomes a whole job on its own, just dealing with the business aspect, dealing with the other people in the industry, dealing with the expectations. Like with programming, I mean, I liked programming when it was just programming, but now I have to deal with the other people and the
standards and collaboration,
the meetings and the changing requirements and the there's all sorts of things that come up and
scheduling.
And
even if you're a big actor, you still have to talk money, and
exactly.
It could be that you don't like the business.
Exactly. Part. I don't like. I just want to do the work. I don't want to deal with contracts and agents and.
Right. I mean, you could be wealthy enough to hire someone to do all of that stuff for you that you don't want to do.
Maybe. But, yeah, I don't know if you can assume you're going to be wealthy, that wealthy.
But so okay, it's a spectrum, but I think a lot of people are probably located at I enjoy 10% of what I do and hate the other 90%, when we should be striving for 70-30.
Okay.
Even if you want to be a captain of a boat, yeah, obviously, there are parts that are going to be annoying. When you dock and then, you have to, it's stressful. What if you crash this thing? But, you're a captain of a boat. That's awesome. Or like an airline pilot. I don't know. Maybe I should have been an airline pilot because it just sounds amazing. And obviously there's going to be annoying parts of it. But maybe I would enjoy that more than programming, what I do. Or there are different fields. I don't know. I'd rather do robotics. I feel like I could get more passionate about robotics and real life stuff and there are parts of it, programming for some, workflow optimization crap that I don't want anything to do with. Services that, I don't know, all our work, but there are parts of it that are probably better. Even in Fight Club, he doesn't totally dismiss working. He wants the other guy to be a veterinarian.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's just about your passion.
Yeah, I also think it's a mistake to think that the answer lies in a career. Like if you just find the thing that you're passionate about and make a career out of that, then you'll wake up every morning and you'll be doing what you love and you'll have a great life. Like there's other things going on. There's other stuff, like
you could be one of those people that gets a job to support their family and so that they could spend as much time with their family, and they hate their job and they don't want to they just want to stay in the same place because all that matters is just get this done and then I can get back home to my.
Yeah, or they just find a way to be okay with what it is because their priority is getting back home to their family and seeing their kids and their wife. And they know that, they have to work in order for that life that they really care about, their family back at home. They have to be here at the office in order for that to continue to sustain. And knowing that, right, Sam Harris one time made the point that, if you feel a pain in your arm and you know in your mind that it's because you're working out and because you're becoming stronger, you'll, in a way, enjoy that pain. That pain will have meaning. You'll say, okay, that's painful, but I'm good with it. But if you feel pain in your arm and it's because you have arm cancer and you're dying, you'll be like, this is terrible. This is a terrible pain.
Okay, but if you're feeling pain in your arm for 8 hours a day for 50 years, it doesn't matter that it's keeping you strong. You're eventually going to hate it, hate yourself.
No, I don't know. No, I'm not sure about that. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He talks about how you can spend 5 years in a concentration camp and you can still come out unscathed if you have that sense of meaning, if you contextualize it in a way that makes your life meaningful, that gives you a sense of, well, I'm doing this because of this, and this is all important, and this is what I really want, and this all makes sense. If it all makes sense in your head, how it all fits together and how you're getting what you really want, you'll be okay with it. And so I think it is possible to work at what some might say is a boring job, a dead-end job, a stupid job. But if you're doing it and if you have a good life and you're doing that as part of that life, that is a puzzle piece that you need to have in place in order for your great life to sustain, and you know that that's the case. I think you'll enjoy it, but not only because of that. You'll use that as a motivation to understand that, you'll be okay with it, and you'll find what to enjoy, and the annoying stuff you'll just sort of shrug off. But if you're looking to find happiness in your job, you'll expect so much more from it. And especially if you don't have something else going on outside of the job that gives you the sense that the job is really a secondary thing. It's just to sustain these other things. Then it's much easier to kind of get depressed about work and think, this really is not. I'm really not enjoying this. It's not having a good time.
I will say, I think it's balance.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you're saying is true. That it's important to have something else not going on in your work, because if your life is just your work, then every time if your work's not doing well, if you have some sort of failure in your job, if it's your life, it's gonna take over you, and it's gonna be devastating. If you have family outside of work, it's not gonna be as tragic. It's you won't take it as hard. On the other hand, if all you are if all your job is a means to an end to support your family, because all you care about is your family, then you're really just locking yourself up for torture, concentration camp, pain in your arm. It's nothing for 8 hours a day for 50 years, and it will affect you.
Wait, you're saying that the person who is only at work to support his family will inevitably suffer from work?
I can't see how it's not, unless he splits his personality Fight Club style and or like what's that other show that you haven't watched yet? The one where they split their personalities when they go to work.
Severance.
Severance, yeah, okay.
I've watched it.
Oh, okay, good. So it's another Fight Club-esque mindfuck.
Kind of.
But what I want to say, and before you push back on that,
Okay.
and because I do think that it leads to not trying to push your position and to enjoy your job more. When I would say, why not both? And what Tyler Durden would say is, why not both? You're just being lazy. Sleep. I don't know. Obviously, we burn ourselves out if
Why
we
not
tried balancing.
Why not both what?
Get a job you love and a family you love.
Okay.
Obviously, it's probably the hardest out of all three options. But just so that's what I would say. And when it comes to Fight Club, this is specifically a movie about people in their 30s. A lot of the people who join Fight Club, they're men. They don't have families that they're supporting.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, and so it's very attractive to them. They have nothing to lose because they don't have anything that they could just get rid of. That's
and they're
why
looking
it's so
for
appealing.
And they're looking for purpose, right?
They're looking for purpose, and I would say yes, family gives you purpose, and children give you purpose. But I'm afraid, it seems to me that once they exist, they're now your purpose, and you give up part of what you wanted and who you are in order to support them.
Yeah.
And I've seen it happen with my, family, friends, where they lose some of themselves because now they're just focused on their children.
Yeah.
And yeah, Fight Club, do what you want to do, but no one has, they don't have children to think about. So they have this freedom, and that's why it drives them all so crazy. Maybe too much freedom. Yeah, maybe we just need children because there is no solution to this that we'll be happy with. And that we'll just be happier if we do have someone that we could that relies on us, and therefore we don't have to think about what do we truly want, because it doesn't matter. I don't have to think about that. I don't have the freedom to think about that, so I don't have to worry about it. And during the movie, he's starting to form this family, this relationship. He starts off no relationship. He's single. All he has is his job, his condo life, his IKEA furniture. And then Marla shows up. And one of the questions I was struggling with is, at the beginning of the story, he says, oh, this all happened because of Marla. And at the end, he's like, it all comes back to Marla.
Yeah.
This love interest. And it could be that the reason Marla is such like a contradiction, why it pulls him away from being Tyler, is because he's starting to form this familial relationship, and he's starting to find meaning from people that actually depend on him. His army, they don't actually depend on him. He's set it up in such a way that he works independently of them. He goes off, flies wherever he wants, doesn't even have to remember them, gives them assignments, they listen, they're not allowed to question anything. They don't rely on him for anything. They're two pairs of black pants, two shorts.
Mm-hmm.
Marla's different. She comes back to him. She wants to have this relationship, and he's fighting it. He's like, don't talk to me. Wait, I like this. No, I don't love this. Get away from me. And at the end, it's like this inevitable conclusion that he pulls away from Tyler because he wants to be with Marla. He loves Marla. And it's not just about him and his personal desires and his personal freedom anymore. He wants to grow, at least, I don't know about children, but at least a relationship with another person.
That was beautiful. Did you read my comments in the notes about Marla? Because I basically said that. I'm glad we're on the same page.
Sort of, yeah. But I disagreed at the time, but now that we're talking about it, it makes more sense.
Nice. Yeah, I was also trying to figure out Marla and why the story exactly. Why does the story say like it's all about Marla? And I was really far away from the mic there for a second there, wasn't I? Okay, so yeah, I was trying to figure out Marla, and yeah, exactly what you said. It's like Marla is this complete antithesis to Tyler's philosophy. It's in the comments. It's a comment. It's right there. Yeah, so she's like the whole antithesis to Tyler's philosophy, because Tyler's whole philosophy or ideology or whatever you want to call it is very like self-focused, and it's about how you are being manipulated by the society, and you are being enslaved in a sense by the society. We need to liberate you. And so it's either you are being stomped on by society, or you are overcoming society. You are conquering society. It's kind of like about your it's
You're following Tyler or you're following society.
yeah, but sure, because maybe you can say that for Tyler it is more about Tyler. But in the message that he's giving to each individual, it's about you, right? It's about you and your power, your liberation. And it's a rather antisocial message, because it views the society around you as this thing that constricts you, that brings you down, and you have to liberate yourself from it. And so that's Tyler's kind of relationship with the society around him, and it's kind of this like ego-focused ideology of self-liberation. And Marla comes along, and she's just, and maybe her innocent character is part of the point here.
That's the thing. That's why it was hard for me to agree, because she's not innocent. She steals clothes from.
Maybe I missed that.
From she goes into laundromats, steals jeans, and then puts them in the next, and then sells them. And then she steals meals from people that are. Well, they've already died, so they don't need them, but like Meals on Wheels, like delivering for old people. She goes to these support groups. Like, she's just as dead inside as Tyler, and she wants to die. She's suicidal. Like, it's not like this totally innocent woman shows up, and starts preaching family values to Tyler.
Well,
and then
yeah.
He's like, oh, yes, you know what, I do love her. No, she's crazy. She's a psycho.
Yeah, no, she
does not want, I don't think she wanted to have his abortion. That's what she said. Like, I want your babies, I want your abortion.
When did she say that?
It's in the books.
It's in the book?
Yeah.
I missed that too. So, yeah, no, I'm not saying she's not the Disney princess, right?
And she's definitely not the antithesis to Tyler.
Well, in some way, I think she is, at least on this point.
Okay.
That point of you need to liberate yourself from society. Because to Marla, it's not about society. It's about human connection. It's like, I just want a relationship with Edward Norton, with the protagonist, right? Like, she just wants to, like, to her, and it's not even that I mean,
she hates society as well.
See, but that's the thing. I think she represents things that are beyond her. I think the character is unaware of what she represents in the story. Like, she doesn't articulate this herself. But because she is this grounding force for the main character, and she wants a real relationship with him, and she loves him, as Tyler even admits at the end of the story, she, even if she doesn't articulate this, in her essence, she embodies a something that throws a giant torpedo into Tyler's whole ideology, because Tyler completely disregards human connection as something that is mutually beneficial, but not beneficial in this, like, because Tyler would look at beneficial in this like selfish sense of like getting you to your maximum potential, but like mutually redemptive is I think a better word. That was
I just never heard the word redemptive before. No, but good.
You never heard that word.
It sounds like it would be a good word.
We were just at a engagement party. Both of us were there, and the man, used the word redemptive to describe his journey to getting engaged. Jesse Jacoby.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the party that you were at just tonight. No. Okay.
Oh, no, yeah.
He used redemptive?
He used the word redemptive, yeah. I heard it. I thought it was a great word to use.
Okay. Right. You know what? I'm starting to remember that. I'm starting to wonder if that was actually a real word when he used it, too.
It's a real word, definitely.
I thought it was a very
I'm pretty sure.
bold word. Okay.
Anyway, so Marla, even if she doesn't articulate it, she embodies this belief that love between two human beings can be mutually redemptive. And that's completely outside of Tyler's purview, right?
His feelings on family, he hates his dad. Mm-hmm. This is both in the book and the movie. His dad would go around every 6 years, start a new family somewhere else. He was setting up franchises, as Tyler put it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to him, he was using family as like another, you could say, a mutually redemptive way. He was just, setting up more kids because he loved.
No, that's obviously not that. He's obviously, why? He's exploiting family.
Oh, I guess the family on the other side does not get the redemption.
Right.
He gets redemptive.
Well,
shit,
no, I don't think
he
doesn't get redemption. He gets
the
benefit.
Father?
Yeah, he gets benefit. It's in his interest, but it's not.
Okay, so
his soul is not redeemed.
Explain. Not the S word, Cal.
Listen, you can't talk about literature without mentioning the S word. It comes
Sure
up.
you
It
can.
comes up eventually in
You
almost
could
any
have
story.
Something.
Every story is about a soul. It comes up in every story.
No. There's got to be something that an audience who doesn't believe in the metaphysical soul can relate to, and the metaphorical soul they can. If you want to use
Fine. So think of it as the
the
metaphorical soul. The metaphorical
okay.
soul.
So what? But what does that mean
It means
to redeem your metaphorical soul through someone else?
Well, to be fair, Tyler's father didn't exist, right? I assume he didn't exist
Because it's a book.
because in the story, Tyler doesn't have a father. It's the protagonist's
He
father.
had a father. He just left when he was 6.
Oh, that's the protagonist's father.
Okay, sure. Edward Norton. Yeah, they're the same person.
I know, but they have different stories about their father. Tyler tells one story about his father, and Edward
they're
Norton
the
tells
same
another.
story.
I mean,
They
don't know they're the same person when they tell that story. They each have a different father from their
It
perspective.
is a bit of a loophole, like when Tyler. No, he tells in the movie at least. He tells Tyler about his father.
Yes.
Tyler never tells him about Tyler's father.
Okay. Tyler just says that he hates his father, or like doesn't have a.
He says that we all of our fathers left when we were kids. God might have left also. What does that teach you? Maybe that God doesn't care about us, just like our fathers didn't care about us.
Uh-huh.
So maybe that should have been a flag, like from Edward Norton saying, "Hey, your father also left. Huh? Maybe we're the same person." But probably.
Your father also was maybe for the same person. I don't think that's a normal reaction.
Yeah, but what you were going for, you were saying, no, it can't be they had the same story, because if Edward Norton was like, wait, your father also died when you were left when you were 6 and set up franchises of families.
Well,
in
if it
other
was
places,
that specific thing.
then you'd say, oh no, it can't be, because then he would have gone on to it, because that's too specifically similar.
I'm not saying that, but I am saying that when I read the book, I did not notice that their stories were matched in such a similar way.
I don't think we see Tyler's of his death.
Okay.
I think he just says that he left.
Okay, we didn't see Tyler's story. Very well. So
Not with the specific.
fine. So Edward Norton's father, who left him at the age of 6 because he always started a new family every 6 years.
And Tyler's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, fine. He always started a new family every 6 years. It's not redemptive, because why do we have this other word called redemptive if it means the same thing as just it benefits you?
I don't know. That's your job to explain.
Okay, fine.
Just because maybe it's a synonym.
Because redemption would mean that he found a situation for himself, a relationship with a woman and with children, and he found a family that he felt such a connection to that he didn't repeat the same pattern. He didn't leave them every 6 years. If you're leaving the family every 6 years, you're not being redeemed. If you find
Maybe he finds redemption in starting a family every 6.
redemption is not something that you can just choose. Like, oh, I find redemption in strawberry ice cream. I find redemption in watching Netflix all day.
It's got to be an eternal,
It's something that
singular,
it's something that truly elevates you.
unchanging thing.
Well, I don't know about that. It is, in a sense, different for each person, but it's something that truly elevates you. Something that yeah, it's meaning the father, Edward Norton's father, who's walking around and he's thinking, oh yeah, I'm just going to start a new family every 6 years because I just get tired of it. Like, his whole sense of self, his conscious mind thinks to himself, like, this is my life, this is what I do, this is what I want to do, I don't even care. Redemption would mean that his whole sense of that shifts and changes, and he's now like, no, I don't want to do that. It's
According to your goals, because you think it's best to stay with one family forever.
you're saying you being me? You're talking to me right now?
Yeah, and in general,
No, it's not about-
society's goals and society's belief about what's good and
Well-
beneficial and good for everyone. Like,
No.
obviously,
Yeah, no.
he has to feel redeemed once he gets to, like, actually believing, oh, this is the final family that he wants and stuff. Maybe his father's just, like, a crazy person. What he actually wants.
Right, so being redeemed
And-
would be to no longer be crazy, and to now no longer want what he thinks he
But
wants.
you can't just not be crazy. Maybe what he actually truly desires, his happiest part of life, is starting a relationship with a new woman every few years.
No, that's not a thing.
I don't know. I think you're talking for yourself.
No.
Some other people,
No.
maybe they're just programmed differently.
No. We're all in some ways the same. No, obviously we're all different, but
we're all in some way.
oh no, for sure, I agree. Yeah,
But we're obviously all different.
we're obviously all different.
But we're obviously all.
There's no contradiction here. These two things can be true at once. Both these things can be true.
Yeah, but I just don't. Okay.
I'm trying to
don't know
explain.
what- okay, go
I
for it.
understand. It's complicated. It's deep stuff here.
That's why it can't be done just in 1 hour, people.
Yeah, this is why we're 3 hours long on this podcast.
So we always get people complaining, oh, it's too long. Well, maybe you got to think
Yeah.
longer about stuff.
These are deep topics.
Deep topics.
That being said, though, we should probably stop soon.
We didn't even
Wait,
get
I'm
to...
kidding. I know. There's so much more. I'm kidding.
We have to talk
Let's keep going.
masculinity. I want to finish anarchism.
Yes, absolutely. Wait, so let's explain. So, right, you say like, oh, maybe this person just that's what makes him happy. It's to start a new family every 6 years. All right, so I could say, listen, this is what makes this person happy. Heroin, being a heroin addict. This person's this person's redeemed. But we all know, like, no, that person's not redeemed. Like, he can think to himself that because he's lost sight of what else there could be, right? He this is now his world. He thinks to himself, yeah, I'm good. This is what I want. This is all there is. Because he's created a hell for himself. And so he blocks himself away from true happiness. True happiness is...
I would say fine. Maybe that's also, marrying someone every 6 years and starting a new family is just heroin and not true. But then maybe also staying with the same person for 50 years and having kids is also heroin, and he's lost sight of what he's truly has because he doesn't want to lose it. And because
there are for sure tremendous challenges. There are challenges with a committed relationship, no doubt. But it's like there are things that are hard and are ultimately good, and there are things that are easy and are ultimately not good. Like that's how life works.
All right. You heard it here first. I hear what you're saying, and I think we've fleshed out that point.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay.
I know, unless you had something else.
There was something from a long time ago, but I realized it's too long ago. I'm sure we'll get back to it.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to anarchy because we were talking about it before, and I think there's just some more to talk about.
Okay.
What does it mean? What do you think it means to be an anarchist?
To be an anarchist is to believe that there should be no government, no law, there should be no society. What does that mean? It means that everyone just does whatever they want, and there's no police force, there's no law. Murder is allowed, but don't do it. But it's allowed because anarchy.
So in that explanation,
Yeah.
I think you kind of split it into two.
Okay.
Which is also how, when I looked it up, that's how the definitions seem to be. Because there's kind of the more PC anarchist definition. Okay. The first one is just, what does Google say? Anarchists believe in a society free from all forms of hierarchical rule, including government, laws, police, corporations, advocating instead for voluntary cooperation and mutual aid. Core anarchist values include personal freedom, egalitarianism, social justice.
This is from the internet?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's like, let's get rid of everything. But also it's like, wait, no, everything's going to be fine. Don't worry. And here's a Reddit definition, this is the PC one, which makes it seem like La La Land, which is like, everything's amazing. It's going to be great. Mm-hmm. An anarchist is someone who rejects the domination of one person or class of people over another. Anarchism is a very broad umbrella term for a group of people of political philosophies that are based on the very idea that we could live as anarchists. We anarchists want a world without nations, governments, capitalism, racism, sexism, homophobia, without any of the numerous intersecting systems of domination the world bears the weight of today. There's no single perfect expression of anarchism because anarchism is a network of ideas instead of a single dogmatic philosophy, and we quite prefer it that way. Saying like, oh, we don't even have any rules to our thing. But if you watch Fight Club, they're literally pissing in people's coffee as waiters. The author, in the books, he talks about wanting to burn down the Amazon rainforest, kill all the fishes he can't afford to eat. Like, it's not just pissing in rich people's food to like take down the hierarchies of people dominating and free people so that we could live as an egalitarian society.
Right.
Like, there's obviously more than that that's going to happen and that would need to happen in order to get rid of hierarchies. And it's also like, oh, we want to get rid of nations, as like making it seem like, John Lennon's Imagine All the People just like living for like La La Land.
Yeah.
Just get rid of nations. Like as if it's the nations that are bad. As if having a cultural identity itself is like an evil thing that needs to be broken apart. Like if you just have a family and a community and by extension a land of people with a culture, like these are essential to people. They've grown up in it. It's everything to them, and you want to like tear that down. And they're going to fight you because they don't want that to happen. They don't want to just like get rid of all of this, but you have everyone in the West who grows up in this country that's formed by immigrants that a lot of them want to do away with the old world and the old way. They see all of these different religions and races as things pulling people apart when we should just be like meshing together as one. Because if they came from if they stayed in their original country where everyone was more uniform and agreed upon in terms of culture, nations, then they wouldn't see a need for that at all. Obviously, there are places in the world where, especially the Middle East, where you have all of these different sects of people, and they're just being, violence and wars all the time because of who gets to live where, who gets which land, and obviously, if there were no religions, then there'd be no fighting because there'd be nothing to fight about.
Hold on. If there were no religions, there would be no fighting. Specifically in the Middle East.
Okay, not no fighting at all, but yeah, a lot of fighting would be redundant because why would I fight my own nation or something, my own people? Yeah, you could have civil war, but you're not being like.
We're assuming that everybody's the same nation.
Like in the situation where there are no nations, we're all just one global anarchy world where, you're still going to have people living in one place with more resources than the other. And then inevitably they would like form their own, that they would become them and we would become us. But the idea is that if we somehow maintain this anarchy, that, I don't know how I went for anarchism, that there'd be no point in fighting because we're all the same. And
so the thing is that if we were all the same in this new world, none of us would have any tribe or nation, or we'd all just be these isolated individuals, and then we would immediately find common ground with certain people and form tribes and nations again. Like you could break up all nations, and then we'd immediately form nations again because we don't want to live in that isolated life of, oh, we're all one nation. No, if we're all one nation, then we're no nations. I'm not part of a nation if I'm part of everyone's.
Well, you're saying, okay, just get rid of like governments, but there's no way to do that because obviously we have so much culture that we'd wind up like forming our own nations again. Or are you saying?
No, I'm saying not even governments. I'm saying like cultural identities, cohesion between groups, tribal identity.
Like mix everyone in the world up, mix them all around, or just making religion, religious symbols, religious beliefs illegal, and any discrimination of any kind illegal.
Immediately,
even if it's like marrying your like.
Immediately, we would then form other groups along different lines with other definitions.
Like what lines? Like who likes Coca-Cola? Because I don't think that would be a strong enough uniter.
It's late at night. I can't just come up with something. But like in Fight Club, in the name of in the name of anarchy, they form a club. They form a very tight-knit, cohesive group that is the people in Fight Club, the people in Project Mayhem, Tyler's army. In the name of getting rid of all groups and tribes and nations, they have formed a very distinct group/tribe/nation.
I mean, that's one of the contradictions. That is the contradiction of anarchy. And that's why, there's no political party that's the anarchist party because they can't get their shit together.
That's hilarious. But that's why, so when I jumped to if there were no nations, I kind of just jumped into this hypothetical scenario that could not happen. But my point is that even if somehow it happened, if I somehow zapped myself into that reality, we would all just start forming tribes and nations
But
again because
I'm just trying to understand how that would even look like. What do you mean zap yourself into that reality? Like make everyone forget about previous religious beliefs, like
Yeah.
Muhammad, Christ,
Sure.
Moses never existed.
Let's say
Buddha.
Let's say we forgot about all that. Yeah.
Then people would still form nations based off of the areas they live in,
Yeah. Or just there would be like
the power of their government.
the Tyler Durdens of the world would form
cults.
Yeah, cults. Well,
because of
yeah,
people wanting
certainly
to
cults. Yeah.
dominate and become like leaders.
Some people and also plenty of people yearn to follow,
Yearn to follow.
yearn to be a part of something.
So I mean, anarchists would say, well, we'd fight to take those down too, but
Yeah.
any hierarchy. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
But so then if you're going to say that the anarchists would fight to take down all these things, right? They would enforce their anarchy. The anarchy just becomes totalitarianism because you have to become totalitarian in order to enforce the anarchy. Because anarchy doesn't just happen automatically because people naturally form groups and tribes, and so if you're going to allow people to be free, you won't have anarchy. So in order to enforce anarchy, you're left with totalitarianism.
Right. So what winds up happening is the only way to express this is like on an individual level, where you just fight back and lone, attacks against the hierarchies or established order. You just say, I don't agree with you. I'm not actually going to like band together with people to take this down because that might defeat the purpose. Or if it does, then it would just lead to like they don't actually want total anarchy, but they'll like spit in the water. I don't know. They'll graffiti, vandalism is low level anarchy because they're trying to say, hey, we're upset with it, but like just know we're upset with it. We're not actually gonna like destroy the entire system because we don't actually want everyone to be dead.
So then
homeless.
There are many strains of cultural belief that are they need to be countercultural in order to exist. The moment they become mainstream, they can't sustain themselves or they morph into something else. And one of those things is being an anarchist. Yeah, being an anarchist requires that there's a society around you. But I'm an anarchist. But deep down, you need that society around you in order to be an anarchist. If you were truly an anarchist and you really wanted to destroy society, this anarchy is unsustainable. It would morph into totalitarianism in order to enforce the anarchy. It's not just anarchy, by the way. I don't want to get into other stuff.
Communism.
But there are a number of communism.
I was just
not
stuff
specifically, I wouldn't say so necessarily, but there are a number of kind of strands in the culture that are kind of like that, right? They say one thing, but really they say it because I can afford to believe this because the society around me is not this. If the society around me became this, I could not afford to actually believe this because it would be terrible. Meaning, you get what I'm saying?
Sort of. Yeah. I mean, I don't. Are you saying that because they still like their comfortable life at some level, then they're not truly anarchists? Or is it just that they don't want to tell everyone what to do because they don't want to be totalitarianists and dictators? Or because I think they do. I think they just want to get rid of religions, nations, and I think they want to get rid of police, but not actually. I think they want to get rid of like the police that think that they could do whatever they want according to anarchists, and
just replace them with good police.
Yeah, just magically they're just the police that only shoot bad guys, never mess up, and have no culture, no police culture, none of that. And like have religions, but only like kumbaya religions that don't really mean anything. Have governments, but that are completely subservient to the people, and like it's just like you're saying, it's not realistic. As soon as you tear something down, something else will pop up. That's just human nature. People are there's always gonna be hierarchies. That's how animals work. We're animals.
Hierarchies are
you got that with lions, monkeys. There's always the alpha, the betas.
They're everywhere in nature.
Yeah, and that's I mean, even in Fight Club, Tyler's clearly the alpha.
Yeah.
They're all his betas, and that's how they like it. That's how Project Mayhem was clearly a hierarchy, and he kept struggling with it, I guess, trying to. He talks about in the book how he keeps trying to revise the rules so that there is no center of the Fight Club and that there's no one really in charge. But like he still gets preferential treatment wherever he goes. People still pay for his stuff. He still is the Tyler Durden, and he travels around. He wants to make sure everything's going because there needs to be a leader, but he wants to feel one of the people as well.
I actually don't remember that in the book, but
Which part?
that he like was trying to not become the lead, not be the leader. He was trying to. I mean, if you're talking about he as being the protagonist, he doesn't even know he's the leader until near the end of the story.
Right. I mean more like Tyler going around setting up all these fight clubs, setting up other members. I don't know. He did want to be the leader. He did have the ego and the Tyler way of doing things. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of the Edward Norton part of it, but every time he would ask something, he would, there's the point where Edward Norton said, "What are you guys doing? I'm coming to he went to the police to say there's going to be all these buildings bombed and stuff." And then the police were in on it. And then they're like, "Okay, we have to cut off your balls, sir."
Yeah.
And he's like, "What are you doing?" No. He's like, "You said you would say that. We have to do this."
I'm not Tyler Durden. You said you would say that.
You
all right.
totally
All right, I am Tyler Durden. I'm calling this off. You definitely said you would say that.
Exactly. And so the fact that Tyler said this, he wanted to make sure that he was treated the same way, or he wanted to make sure Edward Norton didn't screw it up. But the fact that he put himself multiple times knowingly in danger to be treated by Project Mayhem and all the space monkeys and people that worked in his army to take him down if they needed to attack him. They ignore him. They ignore Edward Norton when he's like, "What have you guys done? This is crazy." In the book, they kick out Tyler Durden from Fight Club, even though he's Tyler Durden, because he says, "No more, this is it. It's over. I'm Tyler. I said that's enough. You have to listen to me." And they're like, "No one, according to the rules, no one is exempt from the rules. Once we tell you to leave," he said, "Oh, I'm not leaving from the center of the circle." They said, "You have to leave. If you're told 3 times to leave, then you're kicked out of Fight Club," and they threw him out. Even though he's Tyler Durden, even though everyone knew him. So he wanted, to some extent, be treated the same.
Well, I didn't think that was at all what his intention at that point in the story. He was trying to stop Fight Club at that point. It wasn't about being treated the same.
The fact that Tyler set up those rules to say, even if Tyler Durden, say this.
I see. Yeah. That's part of what made Tyler an effective cult leader, was that he was willing to live by the same rules that he was setting out for everybody else. That's what kind of drew. But
not just to be effective. Because it was kind of unnecessary when he didn't need to do any of that. He could have gotten the message across even if he was.
And you think people would have been as inspired by Fight Club if Tyler wasn't following Fight Club?
He was more inspirational because he was beating himself up at the beginning, to form Fight Club. He beat himself up in the parking lot, and then he allowed himself to get beaten up by the owner of the bar who found out about the Fight Club. And he took the beating, and everyone was like, "Wow, this is someone I can follow."
Yeah.
I hear that, but the fact that he would still allow his balls to get chopped off and not have some final exemption, and his word was not final. I don't know. It's weird, because whenever he said, "Don't listen to me, even if I try to stop everything," you have to not listen to me. And it just seems like he didn't need to do that. Maybe it was just to stop Edward Norton. But it seems still to me like he wanted to hold himself accountable to the same standards, because otherwise he was a purist. He was an idealist.
No, I think Tyler believed in his own ideology, his own. I think he believed what he preached. I don't think he was just trying to manipulate people. Right. I think Tyler believed
he believed in it so much that he was willing to sacrifice himself to push it. He held himself to the same ideals that he was preaching. Yeah. Even if it could kill him.
Or castrate him. It's not a trivial discussion. Interesting. I had a different point in my notes about that whole part, because that seems to me to kind of like demonstrate how cult-like it had become. One of the things that cults do is that the cult becomes the value, right? The cult is sacred, and the people that make up the cult now don't really matter. Individuals don't matter. It's all about the cult as a thing, as an entity, a group entity. So that whole thing where Tyler wants to turn himself in, and the Project Mayhem members are like, all right, we're gonna cut off your balls, and it's like that doesn't happen in healthy hierarchies, because in a healthy hierarchy, the leader has the freedom to step down. Like, in a good, like, if Trump wanted to resign from being president, like, he has that freedom. Like, a lot of people would be upset, but like, we're not gonna, what's the word? Like, flag him.
Flagellate.
Flog
him.
We're not gonna flog him, just because he resigned. Or if Benjamin Netanyahu wanted to resign or something, like you have, it's a hierarchy by choice. It's a hierarchy.
Like those are the last two people that would ever voluntarily resign.
Very well. Okay. If Justin Trudeau, who's not even Prime Minister of Canada anymore,
he would also. He did voluntarily.
I don't know. You tell me.
He stepped down for someone else in his party to take over. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so a healthy
after like 13 years.
Okay, yeah, but a healthy hierarchy is a hierarchy by consent. The leader is there by consent, like he's willing to take up the leadership role and the responsibility that comes with that. And the people lower on the hierarchy are there by consent as well. They're okay with the situation. They're fine giving that responsibility to somebody else for what that means for everybody. Whereas the unhealthy hierarchies are not consensual. That or they become not consensual. They become oppressive. And Tyler himself made an oppressive hierarchy where he was at the top, but it meant that he had to remain at the top. He had no freedom to say, I want to stop, right? I want to resign from my post. Like, no, you are. I mean, it was really because he was breaking the rules of Fight Club. But the point I'm making is that,
like, it couldn't have survived without him. There was no secondary replacement that could have done what he did. But he tried to make it an independent thing that would continue growing.
Yeah, there were
after he's gone.
Chapters of Fight Club that popped up that were independently run.
And Project Mayhems that were popping up.
Yeah. So I guess the point I'm making is that it's very cult-like, Fight Club and Project Mayhem, and part of the reason why I'm not sure that the story is pro-anarchy is because even though the narrator voice, really brings you into this sentiment that anarchy is good, or that Tyler is right, the dysfunction, the unhealthiness of Project Mayhem and of Fight Club and of the people who are swayed by Tyler is so apparent in the story that the point of the story seems to be that this is a cult, and this is something like these people have gone nuts. These people have really like bought into this. Like Tyler has given them something that has filled a hole in their hearts, and they're really bought into it, and they're willing to hurt people for it. They're willing to hurt themselves for it. They're willing to no longer even view themselves as a real person, but rather simply a member of the cult. They're no longer willing to view their friends as real people, but rather as simply members of the cult. And even their leader, who they looked up to, if the leader wants to now leave the cult, they're gonna cut off the leader's balls, because the cult is sacred. The cult is the only value. Everything else becomes secondary to the cult. That it's just so obvious that is a bad thing. Like, you can't write a story.
It's so obvious because it still seems like they were fulfilling their dreams and they were happy. Not their dreams necessarily, but they were fulfilled and they felt excited. The alternative to being, in a dreary work job or just dying from cancer and crying all the time, it's not what they would have wanted. It's not what they wanted to choose. But it's back and forth. I don't know.
The story
sometimes. Like, I think throughout the episode, we've been saying they weren't brainwashed. Well, they were brainwashed. It is a cult, but they're also freedom. They're like finding their own freedom, and it was voluntarily.
Well, I did at one point say that Tyler has a point, but he creates something terrible. Like,
it runs away.
And I think the story's point is that Tyler might be fed up with the state of capitalism, the state of modern society, but the thing that he has created is clearly worse. I think that's clear in the story. I certainly don't read the third act where the protagonist now has to stop Project Mayhem and has to stop Tyler from destroying civilization. I can't read that third act as saying anything other than that like, oh no, this whole thing that they've created, this is still better than the consumerist capitalist society that they lived in before.
Well, I will say for a few people that probably had credit card debt, they were probably super happy that they didn't have, that it was all erased. Anyone who was, like, the whole point was to reset everyone back to equality. And in effect, he got that. And then you have to wonder, wait, is that actually better? And consider that. The other thing that I think you're kind of hinting at is terrorism. When idealism and pushing your ideals, it has become the primary point, and the methods that you accomplish it are secondary, meaning the morality of those methods are secondary. So maybe you have a point, but if you're going to go about it by blowing things up, this is like anarchy to its full extent, which is blowing everything up in order to get everything back to zero. Now, there still is a distinction between killing people, though in the book he did kill the boss and castrate people. But blowing, like, is it considered terrorism to blow up all these buildings if no one dies? Because you're causing all this damage to so many people, push your message, affecting all of these people. I don't know. Maybe that's a whole other discussion for its own time, what constitutes terrorism. Because at some point, they get into what pseudo-terrorism. They become terrorists. They're trying to scare people.
I wouldn't call it pseudo-terrorism.
Well, I would, because in the book, in the movie, they don't kill people. So there's, I think it's important to keep a distinction between like terrorism that kills random innocent people and targets them for the sake of their pushing their movement's ideas versus blowing up buildings. I think you could always rebuild buildings.
It's definitely worse to murder people than to blow up buildings.
Okay, so I'll give you my definition of terrorism. I think, well, I don't know. It's hard. I've thought about it a lot. But it's either targeting random innocent people, or attacking, I guess maybe it's attacking infrastructure without any military objective in self-defense.
What was the first option?
Targeting civilians. Push your, like, on purpose, identifying like a whole race or religion of people and targeting them based off of their religion or ethnicity.
Why do we have to bring in racism or
because
tribalism?
That would be the motive for targeting a civilian. If it's just someone completely at random, then you're just a serial killer. I don't know, because you like killing. But usually we see what is identified as terrorism is when you blow up a bus of people in a certain place, or you stab and hack a whole bunch of civilians in a...
And you're not a civilian of that place.
Yeah, look, well, you're a terrorist.
But meaning it sounds like you're suggesting that a terrorist has to be a foreign terrorist.
Yeah, because otherwise, I mean, it doesn't have to be, but I can't imagine why he would target civilians on purpose for any reason other than they are others to him.
Well, that he could decide or view them as others in whatever way he views that, but he could still be part of the society, part of that same society. You can have domestic terrorism.
Okay.
And
if you go to a school and start shooting up all these kids, and you're a kid yourself, if you're doing it in the name of some movement, if incestism, not incest, what's the word?
That escalated.
That is, incelism.
Oh, okay.
Then maybe that's terrorism. If you're targeting.
Yeah.
Because then your movement is incelism, and
right.
I've identified with all these people online or something.
Yeah, there has to be a line somewhere. It might not be there's like a political line that everyone understands, but you've created a line by identifying as like an incel or... Right.
My point is just, it's not the guy that gets, this happened in Toronto a long time ago, who gets on the bus with a machete and starts like decapitating people because he's just a psycho, and he's just...
Yeah, not every act of violence is terrorism.
Right. It has to come with some political, I guess, motivation,
ideological.
ideological motivation. And the other thing that doesn't just encapsulate that, like if you saw a soldier of some army on the bus, okay, and he was sleeping, okay, there's no military objective here by stabbing him while he's sleeping. He doesn't pose a threat to you in self-defense. Now, obviously, sometimes, the term terrorist is overextended, I think, because if you have some foreign conflict where, there are soldiers and that get shot by terrorists as, portrayed in the media, it's very likely that, or not very likely, it's possible that these aren't terrorists and that they're just, they see a foreign army and they're part of their army. Because, what defines an army? Does it have to be like necessarily working hierarchy with order in a Western society? I don't know. It could be just, a bunch of people in some foreign nation who think they're protecting their city and then shooting against these soldiers. So I don't think that's terrorism. I think that's war. So there's got to be some military objective. If there isn't, and you're just attacking a random soldier from a country that you don't like, I think that would constitute terrorism as well. If you're like this is a top secret operation, you have to break into some foreign enemy's compound and you have to kill the guards to do that, I don't think that's terrorism, even if they're like sleeping and not posing an immediate threat, because there's a military objective.
Mm-hmm.
So
blowing up the Death Star was a military target.
Yes.
I feel like that's perfectly in line with what you've been saying.
Okay. I thought there was a gotcha in there.
No, yeah, because sometimes I hear that, like, oh, from the Empire's perspective, the rebels were terrorists that blew up the Death Star. It was an act of terrorism. It's like, well, no. Like, even if we say that even if we're neutral in that conflict, or even if we're on the side of the Empire, like, the Death Star just blew up Alderaan. It's a military target.
Maybe Alderaan was a military target because they had so many rebel bases.
I'm not saying that's irrelevant. The point.
No, I'm asking about that.
You're asking whether the blowing up of Alderaan was terrorism.
Yeah.
Well, that's much more likely to be terrorism than blowing up the Death Star.
Sure,
blowing up an
but
entire
I'm asking
planet.
about Alderaan. I agree about the Death Star.
No, that blowing up Alderaan was. What do you want me to say?
But they had rebel bases there.
It's an entire planet. That's quite a.
But they
quite a wide berth of collateral damage there, just to blow up some rebel bases.
So it's the extent of collateral damage. If it was 80% rebel bases, then it's basically a Death Star. There's cleaning crew on the Death Star.
It wasn't 80% rebel bases.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. It comes down to a ratio of...
Maybe. It's complicated.
Okay, the last thing I think that we should talk about that we didn't.
Wait, this is the last thing?
Well, I don't know. I'm down to keep going, but...
All right, yeah, no, I'm getting tired. There's a lot more that we have here. But yes, what's the last thing?
Okay, so we were talking a lot about war, just to tie that back in. Tyler had a big speech about how each generation had a war, had a Great Depression. He says, our Great War is a spiritual war. Our Great Depression is our lives.
Oh, yeah.
And... there is a lot of this use of terms, of military terms. There's the army, there's the war that they're fighting. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we still, I guess, didn't talk enough about consumerism. You think we talked about enough?
I feel like we talked a lot about consumerism.
Because it's more talked about at the beginning of the food, but just to list a few things to think about. Excess food, TV and movies, we talked about internet addiction, phone addiction, pornography. He talks about about how IKEA catalogs have even took over pornography as like an addictive thing. He talks a lot about looking young, looking perfect, and that part of Fight Club is destroying, walking around with a bruise and not looking perfect. The author himself spoke about how one day he actually got into a bar fight, showed up to work, had black eye, and people at work just ignored him and just pretended like it didn't even happen. He was like in shock that they'd like just do that, and that was part of the inspiration for the book. He talks a lot about, and this might, selling to advertisers your time, your life, and that's when the humans become the product. So one of the things, and this will tie into masculinity, is he talks a lot about how looking young, looking perfect, how the executives spend so much time trying to look a certain way. And he talks about how men do go to the gym to work out, but they don't work out. They work out for the wrong reasons. They don't work out to get better at Fight Club, to be able to become more competent, stronger, to, I don't know, to do things day to day better. I don't know. They do it for the glamour muscles. You know, they work out their arms to look. And he says that's not what a man is. A man is someone who works out because he needs to. He's strong because he needs to be. So that's what I want to talk about: masculinity and, you know, fighting and a little bit about death. So have you ever been in a fight?
No, not like a real one. Maybe like a little bit as a kid, but nothing that like there was ever a real danger or like a threat of being really hurt or violence. So no is the answer.
Right. I haven't either, which means that we're kind of raised in a cushy environment that does not at all resemble how for most of humanity, how conditions existed, and for most of the world. I think a lot of people in the world, especially third world countries, I assume, you know, in places where there's less police enforcement, education, responsible adults, there's just more fights. As a kid, you're more likely to get into fights, I think. Actually, I don't know. Physical fights, at least.
As a kid, it's more likely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember getting to fights, maybe with friends, you know, getting pushed or pushing them back.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever started, blah, blah. One time I was walking with friends in an area that's more Arab Muslim, and we were wearing our kippahs. We went into like this hookah restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And
Your yarmulkes.
yarmulkes. And they're like, after we're like, oh, everyone's kind of staring at us, maybe we should leave. This was in Canada, Toronto. And then they like chased us out, and we, you know, they started like kicking us and stuff, but as we're running away. So that's what I remember.
Oh, wow.
We ran like little girls.
Yeah.
I think it's more, I don't know if it's more relevant today, but it feels more relevant today because everything is videotaped. But, you know, there are protests going around everywhere. People are starting to shove each other, getting in each other's faces. There's something that happens when you're in a fight that it's pretty clear that Fight Club is trying to push, that you get this adrenaline rush. It's fight or flight. It's something that it really changes, I think, a lot for you. I experience some of it when I play soccer every week, where it's just this, like, you're basically fighting the other team. It gets violent, you're pushing people around, obviously not to the same extent where you're getting your teeth punched out, but there's a release that you get. And, you know, I do want to get more into Krav Maga, take some more lessons. I don't want to get hurt, that's my problem. I'm too afraid to get hurt, which is also a big theme in the book. Stop being afraid of getting hurt, just do it, take the plunge, do what you need to. So masculinity. So I think we should fight each other.
Okay. Next episode.
But B, what do you think masculinity means?
Masculinity is being a protector, being a defender of the vulnerable, being a provider for those who need it. And it's being like mentally strong in a way that like you're willing to face the dragons of the world. You're willing to be the one to face the dragons of the world.
Okay, so why can't women do that? Or why isn't that also part of being a woman?
Well, something that the modern left does get right is that there's a difference between masculinity and men, and there's a difference between femininity and women. I'm not saying that women can't do that. I'm simply describing a...
Majority?
Well, I was trying to just describe what is meant by... Because I wasn't trying to
Exclude.
anchor it to men. But I do think that these masculine qualities... But fine, if we're using the word masculine to mean associated with men...
which is how the word is meant to be. Why would it be
So that's what you're asking.
masculinity?
You're asking what are the common attributes that define men? That's what you're asking? Not as an ideal, but simply as a descriptive, as a description?
No, as ideals.
As ideals. Okay, so I'm describing the ideal.
But usually it's in as opposed to femininity and
Right,
women.
because there's an ideal for femininity as well. And it's not that women have to choose femininity and men have to choose masculinity, but it is that, generally speaking, the men will be more suitable to choose masculinity and women will be more suited to choose femininity. But
It's a distribution, a bell curve, where a majority of men, the mean of men, falls more towards the masculinity side of the spectrum, and femininity towards more. This is
But
like
now
that Jordan Peterson concept, and then there's
Okay.
overlap.
Yeah. But now are we using masculinity and femininity as descriptive terms? Just describing what people are like?
No, as ideals for what we should be striving to do.
Well, so as ideals, I think that very few people, well, I shouldn't say that. Actually, I do think that anyone who is a father and anyone who is a mother,
They'll like competency. What did you say? It's competency, strength, and responsibility.
those are three good terms. Yeah. I didn't use those words specifically like that. But yeah, I think that's a good summation as well. It's more succinct than what I
For
said.
masculinity.
Yeah.
But when I say mothers,
Yeah.
wouldn't you also think
Competency, responsibility, and strength. But I would also say
Maybe
tenderness.
right. I'd maybe substitute tenderness, not to say that mothers are incompetent.
Right.
But it
No.
would just strike me as traditionally mothers are more in charge of daily care of their young
Yeah.
and not as much about like making sure everything around the house works.
Right.
Fixing light bulbs, opening jars, going to work.
Yeah.
Now there are mothers that do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
But the point
work
is,
for
the
that.
point is that both of these things need to be addressed: the emotional well-being of your children, as well as the physical safety of your children. Both these things need to be addressed. Now, it's convenient and is often suited to people's personalities and proclivities that the man will be more focused on the physical safety of the household, and the women will be more focused on the emotional well-being of the household.
Traditionally, these roles were such because the men are stronger. The men were associated with the army, with the local defense of the tribe or whatever it is.
Yeah.
They're just better at fending off invaders.
Yeah. Fending off invaders, and also, like you said, like understanding how things work, like making sure the house, like the lights are turning on and the bathtub works. Like
And even nowadays, like women, it's just women are more emotionally adept at taking care of kids or something. For example, I don't know. Last night I was playing volleyball with people, and there's some little girl want to play volleyball with us, and obviously like the girls who were playing volleyball were more like, oh yeah, you should come, blah blah, and then trying to like take care of her, whereas if like a guy, one of us, had been like, oh yeah, come, then it'd be like creepy and weird. So
to a girl.
yeah, like she wanted to play, like so there's just a thing in society where like, yeah, if that's not a role for men because that'd be creepy, more for women.
Yeah.
Even in modern, like,
There are things like that. Yeah.
yeah. So it's not just a traditional thing.
Yeah. A lot of it, like tradition, the reason it was traditional was because it originally stemmed from biology to some extent. It was like biology that then got extrapolated and kind of maybe hyperbolized, and maybe it became kind of morphed into something that maybe wasn't good all the time. But it's not as if it was completely baseless. Like it was just floating tradition that had no basis in natural psychology. At least that's my take on it.
And the reason we're talking about masculinity is because in Tyler's army, it was all men in Fight Club. There's nothing specifically where he said no women allowed. But clearly Marla was the only woman in the story, and she was not a fan of Fight Club. She did not like what was going on, and he kept trying to protect her, and she felt like this, am I being protected or am I being manipulated and abused? It was like constantly this wavering between protected and abused, which is probably common, more of a feminine role, and the guy being more, I'm trying to protect you, or I'm trying to manipulate, abuse you. I don't know. Maybe it's those just seem like more traditional roles.
Meaning Marla's role in the story is a very feminine role. And
Yeah, it's more passive.
okay.
No? Is she not a passive? She just goes along with the flow of whatever.
Yeah, but I wouldn't
she
describe.
talks
I wouldn't
about
say
it.
that passivity is. Well, she might be passive. She might be passive. Again, I was away from the mic. But I wouldn't list passivity as like
A feminine trait.
But
if men are those
that's
that
tough.
take charge,
Yeah, I don't know if I can say passivity is a feminine trait. That's starting to
because we don't want to get canceled from our 300.
But
viewers.
I'm not just afraid of being canceled. I'm also just trying to be honest. No, there are passive men. There are passive women.
No, of course. But we've already established that it's not universal. It's just a generic, general
I understand.
labeling.
Of course. But
based off of traditional.
But what do we mean by what do we mean by passivity? Because people are active about different things, right? Mm-hmm. People are passive about different things, right? Things
like
that
a mother would be very active
about
in the
her,
raising of her children.
Exactly.
And the father would be passive.
Yeah, exactly. So like saying that women are that doesn't strike me as rigorous and precise enough.
I would say something a little bold, perhaps. I think women and men do secretly appreciate a strong manly leader.
No,
right?
yeah, it's not. It's bold in a sense, but it's not so bold. Yeah, I agree with you.
I don't see why it's not bold because I think a lot of people would be like, oh, why does it have to be a man? And why are we all looking for a strong manly figure? And then it's like very like everyone. I don't know. It's very easy to hate on Trump, on other leaders. Most leaders of the world are men. Mm-hmm. And there have been strong female leaders. A lot of them are seen as sort of masculine. I don't know, like Margaret Thatcher, Golda Meir, was the leader of Germany for a while.
Angela Merkel.
They're not like very feminine women, who are all dressed up in makeup and lipstick. They're very like down to earth, like get stuff done, lower voices. In my opinion, they seem more masculine. But obviously, it's stretching it a little bit because it could be you could have a strong Taylor Swift could be a president, maybe. She probably will be in 20 years, maybe 5 years. I thought it would be, the timeline would be longer, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I'd be a little surprised.
You wouldn't be surprised if Taylor Swift becomes president?
8 years. Yeah. Well, I'm saying if it was 8 years as opposed. She just got
engaged. I just learned this today.
Yeah, I just learned it yesterday.
I mean, it was pretty recent.
And I was very surprised how little I cared. / not surprised at all.
She hasn't been engaged before. This is her first time.
Yeah. It was very sad because all of her songs are generated by
breakups,
heartbreak. Yeah. Now I think all of her songs are good.
Maybe she'll go back to country.
They were always terrible.
They were not always terrible. She has some bangers.
All right.
But maybe she'll go back to country and she'll become like a house mom. She'll become just like a trad wife. And she'll sing country songs again about just like the importance of family and traditional values.
Yeah, and it'll be terrible.
It'll be awesome.
So in the book, he does look down on guys who are being like, locker room talk guys. So one of the air security guys, he calls flight attendants air mattresses. Mm. And he looks down, Tyler Durden looks down, and Edward Norton. They're like, oh, this guy thinks like this is the bad masculinity, the toxic
Okay.
If you will, you don't have to, because I know you might not like that term. I don't.
Well, I don't like how it's used,
and I don't like how.
But I agree that it can exist. There is such a thing as toxic masculinity. But I just don't like how it's used nowadays for a number of things.
And he says that they're a generation raised by women. And he looks down at guys who work out to look like a sculpture rather than to be in shape by fighting. A direct quote, we've all been raised on television to believe one day we'd all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars, but we won't, and we're slowly learning that fact, and we're very, very pissed off. Actually, I don't know what that exactly has to do with masculinity, but it's an important quote.
Well, that does strike me as a masculine quote because, and this isn't necessarily, because everything has two sides to it, and masculinity, of course, does have there are in a sense flaws to masculinity, or masculinity can become something destructive as well as something very constructive. And here,
like peak masculinity would be a millionaire, a rock god, a movie god,
Okay. Peak according to Tyler.
according to society.
I don't know.
Like the manly, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Who are the manliest guys? Like, I don't know. Like a really wealthy businessman, you know, like walking around Wall Street. Wow, he's manly.
I mean,
you know,
it's-
Brad Pitt, he's a manly guy.
Sure, maybe it's complicated because I think, like for me, now that I after some life experience, the most masculine men that I think of, in a good sense, the really great masculine men are like the normal, stable men that I've
They
met
go
in
to
my life.
work,
Yeah, that I
Take
like.
care of their family.
Yeah, like good men, good fathers, good husbands, like decent, good, stable men. Those guys.
I hear it. I still can't help but feel a bit that they've been tamed a bit. And a real masculine guy never becomes tamed by anyone else. He follows himself, which is very Tyler of me. But and he forges his own path. But I remember talking in some like group recently where everyone was just like talking about random things and random topics. And it was like not a therapy session, but it was a community thing just in the park, and everyone was free to join. And the subject was men talking to women or like creeping women out.
Mm-hmm.
And this woman was saying, like, men should know the power that they have when if they're in a park. Let's say there's a park, there's a woman walking. It's night, a woman walking and a man walking, and like the man should know not to walk near the woman. He should go out of his way to go around because he should know how much power he has over this woman. Even he didn't do anything. He's just a man.
Like
But,
he should understand the situation where it's dark and he's a man and this is a woman and she's alone and she'll be frightened of him, and so he should go out of his way to avoid, like, to distance himself from her when he passes by her.
Yeah, and this is obviously not a terrible thing to say. There's much worse things, but I took a bit of exception to this. She said, and the man that like thinks about this is like a really masculine man, and I was like, I think it's a little extreme that, men have to should be thinking about what other women are thinking, and that the assumption should just be that every man is a rapist. Start there and then work your way backwards to make everyone feel safer. I think there are more things that women can do to defend themselves, and that it's also their responsibility to do that if they truly genuinely feel like there's such a risk, in order to balance that. If men are so much more powerful than women, I think, physically, I think that it does dissuade good men from talking to women, and it damages that and them feeling like they should take the first approach, because women do want men to ask them out, take the first step, usually, and it harms that relationship. And the only thing, it's not going to stop bad people from going after women and attacking them or worse, but it will maybe stop good men from being too afraid of making women feel uncomfortable. At least that's how, I don't know, I think it affected me that way. But the other point that I was saying is that she was using masculinity to try to appeal to men and saying it's a really masculine thing to think about how the woman is feeling and go out of your way to make her feel more comfortable. And to me, that just seemed disingenuous, trying to make me say, oh, I want to be masculine, so I'm going to do that. I don't think it's actually masculine. I don't think that has anything to do with masculinity. I think that has to do with empathy and how much really you're expected to go out of your way and how much you have to want to. And I think sometimes masculinity is used to subdue men. This term of, oh, just go to work, take care of your family. That's the real masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that's I get it, and I get why men would tell themselves this. Oh yeah, I'm doing something really masculine by going to work and sacrificing myself for others and my time. But they tell them that so that they tell themselves that so that they could get through it and feel better, and then society values them more. Everyone values that. because everyone benefits.
Mm-hmm.
But I think part of being a man is also, and I don't know, even being a woman, I guess, but I don't know as much about being a woman.
Not as much.
Not as much.
Less experience.
That's it. One day. But it seems that taking charge and leading or going out and being a pioneer, yeah, women could do that too. It depends on the culture. You know, there were women explorers, sure, just not as many as men. Men would go out on seafaring voyages to discover, to go to space, to go fight in wars, to go, I don't know, explore. And we should probably have a feminist on the show to talk about this stuff. And they might say, oh, it's just because of how everything was organized, the power dynamics, that women weren't allowed in these roles. But I don't think women wanted to be on a boat full of men.
Yeah.
In the middle of the ocean.
Or even a boat full of women in the middle of the ocean.
Right. There's something to be said about, those survivor shows where they have the men working together versus the women working together. And not because women are generally weaker, but because they all start fighting with each other.
The women?
Yeah. There's definitely fighting amongst men, but from the survivor shows that I saw, there's more drama traditionally amongst women. And
I've started saying to people that the WNBA is proof that society would not be better if it was run by women.
Yeah, I read that and I did not understand what you're talking about.
Because you don't follow the WNBA.
Which I guess makes you more of a feminist than me, but what does that mean?
Okay. I don't know how much farther we're going to go, but...
That's pretty much, well, we didn't get into mental sickness and schizophrenia, but that could be another time.
So the level of jealousy and like pettiness and bullying and cheap shots that occur in the WNBA, and maybe it could be because it's a younger league, and so it's had less time to develop and polish itself up.
And you don't see this in the NBA?
No. I think in the NBA, I don't think you see bullying. I think you see competitiveness, but I
don't see them fighting.
No, you see them fighting, but there's a difference between fighting and cheap shots,
Cheap shots?
eye gouging. There's eye gouging in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark was eye gouged in the playoffs last year. Might have been accidental. Okay, could have been.
Not Tyler. What's his name? Who's the boxer? Mike Tyson.
Mm-hmm.
Did he bite off someone's ear?
Oh, okay. We're not talking about the NBA anymore. We're talking about all men.
Okay, but that's a men's
all right, well, I mean, Mike Tyson, he's pulled nuts.
Okay.
Okay, it's one example.
Okay.
But there was a fight this year also involving Caitlin Clark, not because she was attacked. The J.C. Sheldon woman on the Connecticut Sun. Just like swipes her face with her fingernails, with her hand. Like, you just don't see that in the NBA. You see people like get into each other's faces, but it's like it's right. Part of being a man,
push each other and throw a ball at the other.
Yeah, but part of being a man is that if I'm mad at you, I make it known and I give you a chance to fight back. Right? I say, okay, we're in a fight now because I'm pissed off, but I'm not gonna like cut your knees and just leave you on the floor and like while your back's turned. Like, I'm gonna give you a chance to fight back. Like, that's what the NBA does. The WNBA.
Well, I remember there was this time when Shaq posterized a guy.
Yeah.
And then pushed him.
Yeah.
And then he started walking away, and the guy threw a ball at him.
Yeah. What's wrong with that? I mean, Shaq.
Yeah, his back was turned.
Okay, he threw a ball. He didn't like
slice his.
Yeah, of course, Nikola Jokic hit that guy while his back was turned, but that was after he got decked. Jokic. The guy who threw the ball at Shaq, like, please, throwing the ball at Shaq. Like, I don't even know if he hit him. Like, that was just because he was angry. He was angry that Shaq pushed him down. He was angry that Shaq posterized him. He wasn't about to go and fight Shaq, though. He knew that he wasn't about to go and fight Shaq. He just had to throw the ball at him to just like at least assert something. Like, hey, like, F you. But like, it wasn't actually like doing anything to Shaq.
I mean, I think maybe the cheap shots is more prolific.
Yeah.
Proliferate.
No, not. Maybe go. Yeah.
Is proliferate.
We get it.
proliferated more in the WNBA. I can't imagine. Like, I'd have to do a little more research about the NBA, but I'm sure like there are guys who are like say things probably, or like poke someone as he's taking a shot, or try to get away with little nudges. I don't know, but I hear what you're saying. I think the NBA is still a bit of a joke because they get away with so many travels and
That's the thing, for sure.
ridiculous calls.
But it's not just the behavior of the players on the court in the WNBA. It's also just how the league is run. The league is just run so much worse, and it's a league run by women. It's like the reffing is terrible. The sense of professionalism is so much worse.
Even the NBA is a joke of reffing.
It's much better than the W.
I think what you're getting at is there's still fights, and it's just the drama manifests itself a little differently. It's not like I'm sure it does get personal. It does get
in the NBA.
In the NBA.
I'm sure. Probably.
You watched the whole Michael Jordan thing.
I took it personally.
That's
a meme.
Which is crazy. He was crazy because he would make up in his head that the other guy insulted him when the other guy did no such thing, but just to pump himself up.
Yeah, Shaq would also do that.
Yeah, but to the same extent. Well, that's crazy.
There's a famous.
I thought Shaq was like a normalish person because he's so funny.
I don't know. There's a thing that I forget who it was, but Shaq has admitted to this now that Shaq started a rumor about somebody, about how he had like slighted him or insulted him or done something bad to him, and he just like started this rumor and started saying it, and he later admitted like, yeah, I just had to say it out loud and even say it to other people to convince myself that it was true, so that I would like beat that guy. And I totally made it up.
That seems a bit like bullying to me. I don't know. But they don't have the fingernails long enough to.
Is that bullying?
To gouge out people's eyeballs.
Maybe you're right. And maybe the point is not that the men are doing it better, just that the women are not doing it better either. Maybe that's the whole point. Like, it's just a response. I don't know. That line that I said, that was just a response to, because sometimes you hear feminists say, like, oh my gosh, if society was run by women, everything would be much better. There would be no wars. We would all be, like, just so peaceful. And
Right. That's the line that I wrote. Like, I've seen it, on Reddit, which is obviously a very feminist, positive website. At least now it is. Yeah, for the past 10 years, I don't know. Okay. I stopped going on Reddit after
the feminism.
Wokeism took over.
Okay.
But they say like, if they say men are needed to protect us, but
there wouldn't be any need for protection if there were no men.
Exactly. And you wonder, like, okay, maybe, but you can't just
not maybe.
Well,
it's not true.
Well, okay. If the whole world was women, they would still fight.
They would still beat each other and kill each other.
But would they do it as well? Like as efficiently as men? Or would it be like more drama, verbal fighting than shooting each other with guns, slicing each other with swords? I
am inclined to think that where there are more powerful people and less powerful people, there will be people who try to exploit that power. There will be people who try to stomp on the vulnerable. Doesn't matter if they're men or women. I think women would kill each other as well. And I think men on the whole don't kill each other. I think in general, humanity has, as we've said before.
What, like nowadays? Because it used to be men were just killing each other all the time.
No, I don't think that's true.
And killing women.
I don't know if that's true.
I think
meaning, yes, there was
perfectly true.
There was a lot of killing.
I mean, maybe Swedish Vikings, women were also pillaging and raping, but I don't think that was as widespread.
But my point is that on the whole, there has been more peace than war in the world, and especially as time goes on, there's a trend towards peace over war. Yes, there was a lot of war. Of course, there's been a lot of bloodshed in human history, but humanity couldn't have survived if we were constantly killing each other. Killing each other was a thing that happened, when it happened, when there were disputes, and it's of course the things we remember the most because the times of peace were boring. But there were tons of times of peace where people learned to get along,
but I just don't think you're making such a convincing argument for men like not being a source of war, because
men are
they're not the source of war, but women, I think we could both agree that if the world was only women, they'd still be fighting, but it wouldn't be as violent. That's one of our things that we sort of there'd be drama.
I don't think so. I think if there were no men, women
would be
more violent,
beating each other up, fight clubs everywhere.
Yeah. Well, no, because that's not what happens now.
Okay, fine. No.
But if there were no men, the more masculine or more violent or more aggressive women would take on the role of the violent,
But biologically, they're not as strong or violent. Maybe it doesn't have...
Probably, yeah. Probably you are correct, maybe. Probably. But it could be that the differences between us are actually quite subtle. And it's simply that each gender goes for the role that has kind of been assigned to them. And men are asked to go for the role of protector and defender and aggressor when aggression is needed because of that subtle difference. But if men didn't exist, then there would be women who would need to take that role as well. The point is there would always be a need for protection and defense because there will always be aggression. And so when you talk about like, oh, would they do it as well? Would they do it as efficiently? Yeah, I mean, especially with modern technology, I think just as efficiently. But the other point is that it's not just other human beings that need to be defended against nature. It's animals, it's the elements, it's natural disasters, it's the simple pain of life, starvation, all these things. So would there be need of protection if there weren't men? Of course there would still be. So what? There aren't men. There are still bears. There's still hurricanes. There's still acid rain or whatever.
Acid rain.
just bringing up examples.
Threats to us all.
Yeah. Whatever threat you want to, alien invasion. I don't know.
Right. But the other thing is you can't just say, let's get rid of a whole thing and then there won't be a problem. Like, okay, you could say, you could solve crime, but no, not crime. You could solve famine. You could solve starvation by getting rid of all the people.
Yeah.
That there's no one left to starve.
But is that equivalent to getting rid of the men to stop?
I think it's equivalent in that it doesn't necessarily justify it. I think you still need, like, men are around and you still, like, you could, the ideal is to get men to be better and to pursue methods of peace. I don't think getting rid of all of them, like you said, it wouldn't necessarily bring peace. And B, even if it did, it's a false...
It's not as good as it could be if men were good.
But it's also just, it's ridiculous. Like, you can't get rid of, like, the problem is violence and violent tendencies, competition. I guess it is similar to what you're saying. You're getting rid of a symptom, not the root cause.
Exactly. So the women would then start doing all those things because the root cause would still be there.
And maybe they would do it less, but it's still not enough to just... And it's also a theoretical that doesn't really make any sense. You can't procreate unless, you want to castrate, not you, but like, how would you even accomplish that? Castrate every...
Getting rid of all the men?
Man and save their sperm in a big bank? You still have to procreate.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't really trying to make this make sense.
No, I know, but like maybe, I don't know, lock up all men.
So...
And milk them for their jokes and sperm. That's a South Park.
I feel like we should. I at least want to add at this point. Like, I think it is because men are physically stronger that with that comes the responsibility of protection, of being a protector. And it's maybe not necessarily because of a personality thing or like a psychological tendency, but simply the fact that you are physically stronger gives you a responsibility at least to kind of check yourself perhaps more closely than somebody who's weaker would need to check themselves in order to protect those around, which I think is fair.
With great power
comes great responsibility.
Exactly.
So I don't like regarding that woman who said that a man should
it's many men. Many women.
Many women who said that the man in the park should keep a wide girth. Keep a wide berth.
Definitely not girth.
English is hard.
That one is your native language.
It
still has some rules.
It's 2 a.m. also. All right, so the woman who said that a man should keep a wide berth when walking in a park at night, especially because she's talking about a very specific situation, right? She's not saying that if you're a man, you need to constantly walk around with this awareness in your head about like protecting the women around you and be aware of what they might be thinking. Like, okay, it's not like that intense. It's in a very specific situation. It didn't sound so crazy to me. Like, yeah, I don't know about specifically going out of your way, but kind of just like keep walking. Don't like make sudden movements towards the woman. Like, you're probably going to frighten her if that's just be aware that like it is kind of a touchy situation for her, and it's
But like
a potentially frightening.
walking by her on the sidewalk.
Yeah, just walk by her on the sidewalk, but just keep
Don't
walking.
make eye contact.
Keep walking, especially if it's nighttime and dark. Don't make eye contact. And make it look like you have somewhere to go. Make it look like, oh, just going. Yeah. And it's not because like you have to. You're Benjy's staring daggers at me.
No, I just okay. I guess I have to do this. Yeah.
I'm just saying that that does make sense. Like in that specific situation, to be a little sensitive to things that could possibly frighten her, and just don't go out of your way, but also just stay the path. Don't make sudden movements.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go boo.
Yeah, don't do that. That's all I'm saying.
Tickle tickle. Yeah, obviously freak the hell out of her. But I'm just a guy. I haven't done anything. I just want to be able to walk in the park.
I'm not saying you did anything.
I know, but it feels like that's the baseline.
No.
Like I'm just gonna, not you. I'm just saying society.
Yeah, I know. No, I understand that. It does feel that way often.
Yeah.
But there's a reason. Mm-hmm. A lot of these things have reasons. Like I said with traditional values. Like I think pretty much all traditional values at one point were rooted in something natural. And society sometimes kind of takes things into extrapolates too far or hyperbolizes. It's like that with men as well. Like there is kind of a reason why society sometimes is skittish about men. Don't frighten the women. Like okay, like yeah, it is important not to frighten the women. There is a responsibility there that not all men have upheld. And yes, it has negative consequences for a lot of average men and boys, and it's tough. Society's tough. The world's tough.
But I think the main message of Fight Club is, and despite all of its contradictions and all of its, messaging that we're not sure if it's one way or another, the bottom line and commonality seems to be take charge of your life,
but
stand up for what you believe in, and you're more powerful than you think. Be the one to... Tyler is still, in his twisted way, he's still taking care of the people that depend on him and doing what he thinks is best for the world and trying to change the world for the better. And I think that's a pretty masculine, or I guess it could be, I don't know. But it's a pretty, regardless of gender, good thing to strive for. It's a thing. It's a positive trait.
It's a regardless of gender thing.
And, good, yeah. To try to take care of the people that rely on you and to take charge. You're not as powerless as you. Get out of your comfort zone. Go start a fight with someone, lose. Go, jaywalk once in a while, but don't die. Do something that you haven't done before. Live your life. Question whether you're truly happy doing what you're doing, or if you need to, or if you're just doing it because you're scared of change.
So that's Benjy's conclusion about the message of Fight Club.
Mm-hmm. Which I did suspect at one point that you kind of got a totally other conclusion from Fight Club.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking something quite different.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking more...
Like, don't do any of that stuff and be a good person, focus on your family.
Well, in a way, I feel like even though we've talked for almost 4 hours, we also have barely scratched the surface. There's a lot more to explore within the text and within the movie, but I think that there's a lot there that is specifically not that, I think. And I'm more on the side of thinking that the story's point is that Tyler is ultimately wrong, and I do accept that I do think the story believes Tyler has a point in the beginning, and I think part of the protagonist's problem is that he has ignored Tyler for too long, and that's why Tyler kind of becomes this alternative personality and starts running wild and doing things that are outside of the protagonist's control, and that's very much in line with the kind of the psychology of the shadow, that if you neglect your shadow, mm-hmm. the shadow will take over and start controlling you. So that certainly is a thing. But by the end of the story, the point to me seems to be more, you do have to take guidance from Tyler, but you also have to reel him in. And you also and ultimately you have to, meaning don't be Tyler and don't let Tyler run wild. Listen to what Tyler is telling you, but you ultimately control Tyler. And there are also just more important things than what Tyler's trying to create, like your relationship with Marla. Yeah, and like the whole thing kind of strikes me as a journey, this kind of like psychological journey in a very low place, right? The protagonist starts the story in this very low place to the point that he's such a messed up human being that part of him has now completely split from him and has a mind of its own. You know, metaphorically speaking, I'm not trying to say that he's insane, even though he's insane, but I'm trying to take a more metaphorical point here. And so the point of the story is that he kind of gets to a slightly better place by understanding what is going on, understanding that, like, okay, this destructive force that is Tyler Durden, this is actually me, and I need to take responsibility for this, and I need to do something to destroy or to control, maintain, reel in this destructive force. And that's as far as he gets. And the hope is that, okay, after the story, he then gets further and actually becomes a far more stable and productive human being. But like at this point, this particular story is just about him getting from this terrible place to a slightly better place.
All right. Well said. I don't know if they're gonna have kids with him and Marla and raise a family and then go back to a job. Mm-hmm. But who knows?
Who knows?
Up to the reader.
We'll catch you in the sequel.
Mm-hmm. Fight Club 2. All right. No, there will be no podcast called Fight Club 2. Don't worry.
Yeah. There's not going to be a part 2. We covered it. We talked about Fight Club.
We broke the rule.
Yes.
All right. This has been the Benjy Cal Podcast. Have a good night.
Good night.